All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Planet Cracker Podcast, Episode 7. I'm your host, Sirius Max, and I'm joined by.
Hello. Shall I introduce myself?
I don't know. What do you
uh,
think?
Perhaps. I am. Joining is me, Oronoto, a guy who made the Dead Space remake tribute video, "You Become Whole," which took me months to make. So I'm glad to be on the show.
And let's hope that won't be the first and the last, because I'm expecting more stuff from you.
Well, if you're expecting more from me, then you gotta pay me.
British, you know what to do.
Hello everyone, my name is TheBrtishRunner. I make Dead Space lore videos and a few documentaries every now and again. How you all doing?
Pretty good, pretty fine. Alright, I think that will be all for the introduction, so. The big question is why are we here?
Just to suffer.
As well,
Every night
but.
I can feel my leg.
What's
It's gonna be
here?
like one of those old detective films. So you're probably all wondering why I called you here today.
Yeah, it won't have nothing to do like, what if, like, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, maybe from here 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, might announce a Dead Space 2 remake.
They got them better.
I mean,
Well, they did ask, and everyone was like, "Yeah."
that's true, they did that to survey if people were interested to see a remake of the second and third one. But the thing is that we don't know the number sales of the remake, so we don't know if it surpassed, for example, I don't know, the Dead Space 1 from 2008 to sales or Dead Space 2. We don't know the cost of the development. I mean, for example, if we're gonna take like some shots at another similar game like Callisto Protocol, that well had quite a big budget but quite a low income. And as well, the Mr. Dead Space left the studio once again. The history does repeat. So it's not only Dead Space his past, but also the Callisto Protocol. Sorry, Glenn, but
It is a track record throughout his whole career, and like he just abandoned ship when shit hits the fan. He had this with Dead Space Extraction, where it only sold 9,000 copies, and what do you call it? Like he was like, "Oh fuck this shit, I'm out," and then he went and made his own studio for Activision, and when World War Two kind of bombed, he was like, "Fuck this shit, I'm out," and then he goes straight to Striking Distance and creates that, and then same thing happens with Callisto Protocol.
and and it's kind of funny that after he leaves, it's Steve that takes the leadership.
You know, I actually had this thought the other day, like when I was rewatching a walkthrough of the Saw games, and I was like, "Wow, really? This actually does look a lot like the Callisto Protocol." Like, because like you pick up weapons and all that stuff, like a crowbar or something, and the what do you call it? The combat is very similar. So it's just like, yeah, they kind of just took a generic combat system and just threw it into the game, and it didn't really work out that well.
Yeah, and as well with the false advertising on some aspects and relying on nostalgia for the Dead Space fans.
I wouldn't really say nostalgia. It wasn't really nostalgic of Dead Space for me personally.
I'd say
Like
it's
I
more
didn't.
so like using the fact that Glenn was on the project mostly and saying since he had, he was the creator of Dead
Yeah.
Space and just saying using that name
I
as
did
a
find it funny. I did find it funny, like the masters of horror, like
yeah. I
these,
was just
like
about
these
to mention
grand,
that.
like the grandfathers of what do you call it, horror, was saying like it's the scariest experience you'll ever be. It's just I'm playing through the game. I'm like, no, this is the most bullshit fucking experience I've ever seen. Like the amount of deaths I had on my first playthrough. My God, like going against a twin-headed behemoth. Oh my God. That was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because they would spawn enemies into the arena with you, and if you get hit once by an enemy, it's all over because the guy would just come in and just grab you and slam you on the floor and kill you. It's a one-hit kill as well.
I remember being really excited for the game in 2022, I think it was. And I remember they had the whole Masters of Horror series and thinking like, wow, damn, they really putting in a lot into this game, and especially the sound design. And I pre-ordered the game, and I remember launching it on PC and how buggy it was, and I was like, "Oh God, this is dreadful." But that didn't make me, refund the game yet. It was actually at the first jump scare where when Jacob wakes up in his cell, he sees the pink box, and then his friend jump scares him and he screams at his face. And I saw that, and I fought back to the Masters of Horror, and I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then I closed the game and I refunded it. But if that's the first jump scare you do, are you shitting me? That is the most boring thing you could think of. It was so bad. It pissed me off so much.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
those jump scares. Like, there was one later on in the game where you're in the streets of Europa or something
Yeah,
like that.
Europa.
And yeah, Europa. And then you are walking over to the box, and then you see the girl that's your companion, and then she turns around. It happens to be the guy, and he just goes "rawr" at you, and it's just like, what the fuck? Is this supposed to be a jump scare? I'd get better jump scares from Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's
And
true.
that's an indie game. Literally, Five Nights at Freddy's 1 had better jump scares than that. You know what it was? It was going, eh? And that was it.
They put a lot of money into that goddamn game's marketing, and it literally backfired really hard.
Yeah, that was kind of like a bit of a red flag as well with the whole crunching thing, but
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah, it just really shows where his priorities were.
Well, I think it's safe.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that even Callisto Protocol is in his past. But who knows? Maybe the Master of Horrors whole thing. Maybe they saw a different version of the Callisto Protocol. Maybe they saw Dead Space remake. It's reskinned. Who knows?
There was there was also the controversy where I don't know who said it, but they also said that Callisto Protocol is going to be the first quadruple A game, which is absurd. I didn't know where that article is from, but I saw it somewhere, and I can't remember who said it. But saying that your game's the first quadruple A game, well,
What does that even mean?
It's better than triple A.
If I'm not mistaken, do you remember that time during the Dead Space Remake versus when see Jacobs mentioned about that 4A, like an inside joke of the developers during the original development?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because on some areas of Dead Space Remake you can see 4A, like number 4 and A, like a joke like 4A, like I don't know, instead of triple, that quadruple.
Oh,
yeah,
that's funny.
I remember the crystal clear because it's just stuck in my mind when C. Jacobs mentioned it.
Funny.
Yeah.
I also find it funny how that's the motive actually celebrated the release of Callisto Protocol, and Striking Distance was dead silent when the remake came out.
I mean, they did celebrate it in a way, but privately, so say, through LinkedIn. But I'm glad that they did it, but the thing is that a few days later, like, for me, there's no excuse. No, they did it the first day. And you just wait for 2-3 days? Did you
ever get that shout out from Striking Distance? Yeah.
Let's just say, let me think.
Or did they just leave you? Did you just leave you high and dry?
They left me on read. Not even on read. I mean, they approached me, asking me if they could use like 5 or 10 seconds of the footage that I did for the Riot mode. They did a bit of how I call it, like mentioning my name with the
Imagine that, like, the game can't really be that great if, like, you have to use, like, a really tiny YouTuber to kind of sell your product for you.
But
Like,
here's
I
the
understand, like, from stuff like Activision with Call of Duty and that, like, they use YouTubers and that, like, but those have, like, massive followings and all that stuff.
yeah, but
No offense to Leos, but you don't have a massive following. Like, that kind of says something about striking distance if they have to use someone with a small, really small, like, channel,
well, they probably saw, oh, this guy did like 666 rounds on our Riot mode.
Yeah,
Let's
I'd
just
just say it's a
approach
bit
him.
more. I'd say it's just a bit more exploitative, in my opinion.
But here's the catch about this. Like, with the striking distance, it was a mega experience. But on the contrary, with the experience that I have with Funcom, when the studio that released Mental Health Singer, it was a total different experience. Wholesome experience. I'm still in touch with sometimes with some developers when they stream on Twitch or something like that, and it's wholesome. And as well when they do like new releases of DLCs, like for example the recent one that they added like a horror mode, so you can customize the abilities, the weapons, yada yada yada. But I think we should start with the real reason why we are here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't get sidetracked.
Yeah. So let's start. I mean, we could use the points that I put it in the resource chat, but just to do like a quick recap of Dead Space 2 and the spin-offs that came with it. Because with the ending of Dead Space Remake, there's like a huge possibilities, and especially as well with the lore that it added. Additionally, but when it comes to the visual games, Vision, I mean, we have the mobile, in which we play as Vandal or Kerry Norton, whatever you want to call it, which I don't think it has any references to Robert Norton from Dead Space 3. Then we have Ignition, where we play as Frank O'Daniel, the hacker that releases Isaac at the beginning of the Dead Space 2, and then Dead Space 2. And we also have Server, but when it comes to the times of the events, I would say that it first starts with mobile, and then Ignition, and between Ignition and Dead Space 2, no, well, between the old games in general, with Severed, because Gabe is like in the Titan Mines with Alpha. Well, he was in the Bravo Squad or in Alpha Squad, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was in Alpha. Like, let me. Yeah, I'm gonna check a bit. So if you gentlemen can, I don't know, start recapping like the story.
Sorry, which character are you talking about?
Gabe Weller.
I think he was in Bravo.
Bravo.
Yeah, he was in the bottom team on the screen.
The
So
sergeant.
it wouldn't have been Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in a different team than Alpha. You find that in the what do you call it? Severed DLC.
So
Just right in the intro.
Yeah. So starting with mobile, we play as Vanzel, engineer. We don't know which class engineer, but she had so say the clearance to access those areas of the Titan shard areas to sabotage those systems. And let's just say that during that game, she's like basically the Isaac Clarke. Because she kind of adapts very fast to the whole outbreak. Because she experiences firsthand the outbreak, but we don't know if it started like earlier on, like hours before, or just started at that time. Because, yeah, the whole sabotage thing happens fast, but I doubted that the outbreak just starts right away. So it would have been like
No, the outbreak would have started way before that because like the amount of slashes that just flood the area, man, like that would never have been like the initial outbreak.
yeah,
Like it would have happened in the Titan mines, and the unitologists had even been sending people down into the mines to commit suicide and
yeah.
donate their bodies to the corruption. Which is the thing, the corruption can also turn people into necromorphs as well.
Sure, when they're like in direct contact.
Yeah. Like you see that in Dead Space Salvage, that the corruption can just grab a body and just, you know, consume it and then spit out a slasher. Yeah.
But yeah, but I doubt that Vander was like the only initiate or fool that did the
As I
self-dash
just
thing.
said, there was a lot of unitologists that were going down into the mines,
But I just
being
think,
told to go and off themselves so that they can be reborn as a necromorph.
be in proximity with the marker signal because based on this
Mm.
PCU audio log or text log, even with all their procedures to block the
Oh
signal, they
yeah,
will
yeah.
still find a way to escape. So say,
Yeah, but this is the thing. What the developers also said is like, the people that are in the Dead Space universe still don't understand the marker 100%. So every procedure is based off of their current knowledge and their experiments with the marker. So they don't know all of its secrets. So yeah, that's the reason why the marker would have been giving people dementia and making them go crazy because they literally had no idea how to even contain the marker at all.
yeah, and those in proximity will experience some sort of dementia episode. So say, just like Vandal has after escaping, like going to government
Mm.
sector. But she was like one of the luckiest, or maybe the only one that kind of escaped the initiate onslaught of the necromorphs.
Is the thing. I don't really like Mobile's story because, like, the marker signal, I feel like it should have been, like, it should have turned the dead into necromorphs in the actual public sector. Like, it would have been like, what do you call it? You have, like, a few necromorphs spawn in the, what do you call it? The hospital. And then, you would have, what do you call it? A few people die. And then, people think, oh, it's aliens and all that. And then it slowly turns out, oh, no, this isn't aliens. These are actually just recombinated life forms. And it could have had it where, like, the church was ground zero of that, what do you call it, outbreak. That's what it should have really have been, I feel like. Instead of have it all just be like, oh, unitologist brought this on. You could still have it where unitology was to blame, but, like,
I mean,
it's a bit suspicious how the corpses scattered throughout the sprawl, essentially, like in the hospitals and in the, what do you call it, stasis tubes and that in the morgue. Never returned into necromorphs before the outbreak.
yeah, the thing is at that time of the story, they were still like in the Titan Shard, so they haven't reached the public sector until Tyler, well, lied again to Vandal and, well, let's just say that tricked her to open up the doors. So at that time, the public sector was still safe for now.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the marker signal had been giving people dementia and all that stuff from the government sector to the public sector. So who's to say that all of the corpses that had been accumulating in the public sector weren't turning into necromorphs as well? Like, that's a bit of a plot hole.
Yeah, maybe they could have controlled that situation, but the big change that the Necromorphs like going fully through the interconnectors to the public sector, that would have been like the culminant point. And it's kind of interesting because in the mobile, in comparison with with Dead Space 2, we have a bit more of character development for Simon, as he's truly cares about the civilians of the sprawl in comparison to the Dead Space 2. You get some glimpses at the beginning and later on, but in mobile is where he kind of shines more.
Being honest, I would like it if we had two campaigns for Dead Space 2. Like one from maybe Ellie's perspective, is like she had to what do you call it? In her story, she basically is in the CEC factory.
Yeah, CC facility.
And yeah, it becomes swarmed just after what do you call it? The tubes open up. The crossover tubes. So yeah, that would be an interesting little mini campaign if they were to add that into a remake. Same thing could be said with what do you call it? Gabe's campaign. Maybe expand upon that. That would be an interesting one.
I feel like as cool as that would be, especially a separate Ellie campaign, I feel like that would work best as a DLC, like for what we got for Resident Evil 4 with separate ways. But I feel like when it comes to DLC, a big factor, even with something like Gabe's DLC, which exists already, but it getting remade, I think highly depends on its on the base game's revenue, because I feel like EA would probably feel not that confident in remaking a DLC because outside of the community, not that many people really talk about or even know about Dead Space's 2 DLC.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
didn't even know
because
because it's mostly on just console.
yeah, exactly.
True, and also about that the character that you play on Severed is an extraction character, just like British mentioned at the start, that it didn't sell that well. Maybe on Wii, but when it came out to PS3, and also it got like packed together with the limited edition of Dead Space 2, if you bought the PS3 version.
Yeah. That's just the thing is, like, with Dead Space, it wasn't as critically acclaimed as everyone believes it was straight away. Like, they had to build that up, essentially. Like, they didn't have, like, you know, it was a new IP, so, like, not everybody was interested in Dead Space back then. It was only when it was, like, 2010 that it all started to blow up for Dead Space. Like, with, like, the comics and, like the book, I think it was the Dead Space Martyr, and what else? You also had like an animated film, 2 animated films made around that time, and a couple more comics building up the story. And there was a lot of investment and intrigue within the community at that time. It wasn't in 2008 that Dead Space just blew up overnight, you know. Not as much as the YouTubers like to believe there are. Like that was the story and all that, because it's not.
Yeah.
Like I think Dead Space kind of sold about like I believe like 100,000 units, and that was only really it. So it wasn't as critically acclaimed, and also the game had a lot of criticism thrown its way as well. So,
But it was something different at that time. Like when it, I think it's more memorable when it comes to the enemy types and the UI, like the user interface. I think those 2 elements are the most memorable about Dead Space.
Yeah, I feel like with Dead Space, even originally, I believe Dead Space 1 sold over 1 million copies on each platform, but I'm not sure.
well, that's over time though, isn't it? That's over the years.
Yeah.
Like say for instance, Dead Space 3, I believe, has sold possibly triple what it actually did previously when it hit like maybe in 2016, maybe 2019 or something like that. Like, but that's just over the years. It doesn't really matter when it's not in the same year of its release.
Yeah, and also you need to take in consideration when the game was like on offer, how many people bought it
Mhm.
during those offer
Yeah.
events and so
I mean,
Yeah.
forth.
like, like when the remake got announced, I think, no, before that, it was, I think they were selling the trilogy as a sale on the consoles, essentially,
Yeah.
for like 15 quid, which is like nothing.
Hmm. Also, we it's been recently like really become more known that games usually make more of their money back after their prices start going down. Like the initial sales when the game is at full price is nowhere near as high as its later life.
Mm,
So I'm pretty sure, like as Dead Space goes on, I feel like that's where it gets more of its money back because I don't think Dead Space is that popular. Where let's say Resident Evil 4, people are gonna buy that instantly day one. Resident Evil, the biggest horror IP in gaming, right? Dead Space, not so much.
Hmm.
After all, as we talked about, Dead Space wasn't that popular originally when it came out. We kind of
mm,
forget that as iconic as Dead Space is, I mean, Isaac's helmet is extremely iconic. It's so recognizable. You'll see it. It's like, oh, that's Dead Space.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Like,
it's exactly the same as the Master Chief sort of
yeah,
thing. It's an icon.
yeah. It's those three lines that make those three blue lines that make the helmet so iconic. But
Mm,
because of the how iconic the imagery is, we kind of forget that Dead Space is still a cult classic. And by cult, that means that not that many people have really played it. Sure, it's a large portion, but horror games are actually not that popular in the market. So
mm,
it's still for a lot of companies a financial risk to put in. The
Hmm.
Dead Space remake even happened because of the Resident Evil 2's remakes success.
Yeah.
Motive brought the idea, and they saw what happened with Capcom, and they went with it,
Hmm.
and it turned out right.
mm,
Yeah. But the thing is that with
So
what
yeah.
Motive did with the remake, for me it was like a very like good marketing to showcase pre-alpha footage and slowly showcase even more. It's just something like Digital Extremes does with Warframe, with the
Mhm.
weekly dev streams showcasing like new patches, new updates, a bit of Q&A with the community. Because during the whole time, I mean, right now I'm just doing the comparison with the Motive and Striking Distance. Striking Distance is going literally the boring corporal way. Just alright, we're gonna participate to some events. We're gonna make a lot of marketing, all that stuff. But Motive, keep it simple, keep it
mhm.
true, listen
Yep.
to the feedback, being more closer to the community, and that's a good recipe for a good product.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like a lot of people are like, oh, they changed the whole thing. It's just like not really. Like the skeleton of the game is still there.
I
Like
will.
what do you call it? The what do you call it? From point A to point B, point
Hmm,
A being the beginning and point B being the end. Like there are changes that has happened to, like, say for instance the aesthetics of the story, like to expand upon it
hmm,
and to make it better than the original was.
hmm.
And what do you call it? Maybe the way to get to the ending is a little bit different, but it's still the same sort of experience, essentially, just better, you know?
Yeah. At least you have the option to do the alternative ending when you do New Game Plus, so
Mm-hmm.
that's a plus.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But when it comes to the remakes, like yeah, right now I'm comparing with Resident Evil 4. I would say this space as a
Mm.
remake, it was more faithful to the original than Resident Evil
Oh,
4
absolutely.
was to the original because I played both games, as well the original and the remake, and with the DLCs, and there are some parts that are missing that they haven't implemented to the remake. Talking about Resident Evil 4. But on this space,
Mm.
everything like what's important is there. The locations are there. The key points are there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the
Yeah.
thing is with Dead Space remake, essentially, like the fact that you could actually just go back to a previous deck and explore it even more is even great. But the thing that is like probably the best feature in the game that hasn't. I don't think there has been anything like it in the past, but it's the intensity director, like where the game would be like, you're kind of you're going back to the medical bay. You're doing pretty well so far. How about I
Yeah.
spot about 5 necromorphs in front of you? Yeah.
Just like that time in the verses, right?
Or like, you're feeling confident. Well, let's see what happens when I do some. Like, you're feeling pretty confident, are you? Well, what happens if I just break a vent right next to you, or like let the lights will start flickering, or do something that you haven't even anticipated yet, like
Like spawning in the next 3 rooms, necromorphs.
And nightmare necromorphs.
A lot of
Which
those.
I'm not gonna lie, I did not really like the nightmare necromorphs that much. It was just like, really, just a stronger necromorph. Wow, that's kind of gay. But like, you could like you could have been like, it specifically says new enemies. It's like, these aren't new enemies. These are just enhancers, and that's it. Like, you could have just said, screw it. Let's put the stalkers, the pukers, the pack into there, and just let the intensity directors spawn these wherever they may be going to. And I think that would have been a lot better than just having enhanced enhancers, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. I feel like budgetary wise, they probably couldn't have done that, and if that would have been such a big investment, especially stalkers, I feel like if
You
you're just
didn't
gonna
really
put
have
that
to
on a
have
new game,
stalkers.
yeah,
You
that's
didn't
just
really have
like
to have
one
stalkers,
example.
but it's just like me saying, like, you could have had the pack in there. You could have had pukers. Just as like something for New Game Plus, like something a little bit different, or you could have had what a completely unrelated genre of gaming has, The Legend of Zelda. It has Mirror Quest, or what was it called, Master Quest sort of thing. So when you go back into the game from a new game, you're playing on Master Quest, the whole world is mirrored, and the what do you call it? The dungeons essentially in the game are completely like randomized essentially. So like something that like you already know the route like the back of your hand essentially, getting from point A to point B, getting from the entrance to the boss. It's easy, right? Well, the Master Quest kind of just takes that and just warps your perception of that entirely. So to open this door now, you have to find a cowl that's inside the wall of the dungeon, and to shoot a specific area of that dungeon to open the door.
So basically, like a random
with
seed.
no indication at all. So like, it's not a random seed. It's actually been made that way. So it just makes the game even tougher to get through. And also, I think enemies deal double damage on Master Quest. So you could have something like that for Dead Space. Like, you don't have to completely randomize it and all that stuff, but like just make it a little bit, something for New Game Plus. Kind of like what Dead Space 3 had, like with, you can only use classic weapons, or you can only do this, or you have to build everything from scratch, or you die once, you go all the way back to the beginning, which is what they had with Impossible. But like, I feel like they could have done a little bit more with New Game Plus.
I mean,
Like, give me a challenge, give me something to
One
try and strive
idea
for.
I had with would have been cool with the Nightmare Necromorphs is instead of them just being stronger, I think would have been cool is if they were a little bit like invisible, so it was tough to see them, so they would sneak up on you more easily. Like they make less sound, and
Well,
they like
that's the
phase out and
thing.
stuff like that. I feel like it could have been gameplay wise far more interesting. That will keep you more on your toes.
That's the thing, though, with all the necromorphs in Dead Space, they are a lot quieter than they once were in Dead Space. So, like in the remake, all of the necromorphs hardly make any sounds until like they are aware that you've seen them, or like they are right behind you. So slashers will only go ah sort of thing if they're right behind you. They won't do it from across the room,
Mm-hmm.
which is very interesting. especially when you're in a very dark area as well. So they already do that. They're already quieter.
I think that's good because
They're adapting.
what I've noticed, they do announce their arrival, like when they pop out of the event. But if you're not sure about your surroundings, they will use that to their advantage. I've seen a lot of
Mm.
gameplay videos where people genuinely get scared by the fact that a necromorph was behind them,
Yeah,
and they jump. And I feel like that's a good
Mm.
thing.
yeah, and that's
Personally, I don't
Yeah,
find that
well,
scary, but if that works, then that's good.
when comparing to the original, the original, like you knew where the necromorph was as soon as it spawned. So like, but with the remake sort of thing, I think it also plays into the fact that these areas are even more cluttered now than they once were, which is annoying to actually try and get through. Like you're constantly bumping into things. Uh, like with the original, it wasn't like that. It was just literally like the generic map sort of layout sort of thing. It wasn't like you had like all these counters and all that stuff, and you had all these boxes over here. It was just literally like, here is the design. Here is like a stasis module or a stasis refill thing, and here is a couple of boxes over here that you could smash. Here's a little log there. There's one door over there. Here's a few vents, and that was pretty much it. And I'm
yeah,
talking
but
about the maintenance. I'm talking about the maintenance bay. So,
but also the new redesign of the audio system kind of helps in the whole experience. Because I don't know if a snack of bumps into an item, you can hear it if you're using headsets. Because on headsets it's more
mm,
immersive in a way
yeah.
to feel like the sound effects, and that could
Mm,
like play against you, but on adventure to the necromorphs, adding more on that uncomfortable feeling.
mm,
But yeah, for me, the thing that they don't announce right away when they spawn, it's a good thing because it makes you
yeah.
more on alert.
Yeah, it makes you a lot more uncomfortable. It made me a hell of a lot more uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Especially when necromorphs were just like spawn silently and the whole room is pitch black. So, and then you run away from other necromorphs and bump into another one. It's like, that actually shoots my adrenaline up when I don't see what's coming and I'm in complete darkness and I just don't know what the hell is there. And then all of a sudden I'm taking damage. Like, what the fuck is that? You know, like.
yeah,
I appreciate how much more the remake is quieter because one of my biggest complaints with Dead Space overall, like identity wise, I guess, I've always found Dead Space as kind of a haunted house type of thing where you start playing the game and it isn't like, Silent Hill 2 or Resident Evil where it's cheeky fun. Or Silent Hill 2 with psychological horror. It's where if something happens and it's scary, it's the loudest thing on earth, and it uses that volume to scare you.
Mm,
And but at some point, it wears off. People get desensitized to what they're scared to,
mm.
and
That's where the
it's just
intensity
exposure
directly
therapy
comes into
essentially.
it.
yeah. I mean, you can fix it
And
With
by lowering the music volume and just keeping
yeah,
the sound effects and the voices, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true, but I still think since it's still like with the game itself, I feel like they could have been a lot more. They could have done a lot more to scare in the original, than just using volume. But in the remake, since the game isn't as loud, and the audio design is even more improved,
Yeah,
it has a lot more moments where it lets like the necromorphs do their thing and not relying on music or sound to scare you. Like the enemy itself sneaking up on you scares you, and that's good.
mm, yeah,
yeah, that would be
but
something that
they
I would love to see in the remake of the second. That would be something that I would love for them to keep it.
Yeah,
mm,
and one thing I feel like they should absolutely you do more in the Dead Space 2, since it's a large space city, is we should see the necromorphs just do their thing, walk around and not attack. So because we're in a giant apartment, imagine like looking up and you just see a necromorph walking, and I feel like they could be effective because we don't, since the marker is so different. I feel like Motive has a opportunity to use necromorphs to move around the environment, and I feel like that's a big opportunity because to a lot of people, the necromorphs are mindless beasts. You know, they just walk, they just run at you, no thought. They just want to kill. But if we put a necromorph into an environment that has no people around them and they're looking, I feel like they could do a lot of creepy things and unsettling
I would say like
abilities to do that.
yeah, I'd say the necromorphs, when they don't have anything to kill, they'll just lie down on the floor and play dead. That's mainly what they like to do,
Or
Mhm.
collecting
especially
bodies.
slashers.
Yeah, even if like collecting bodies, I feel like you could do a lot more with that. Like imagine you take a, like, you know, you've seen what's it called, slasher carry a body, right? But imagine a leaper, like with its kind of posture. It would be interesting to see it, like seeing different types of necromorphs do their things, trying to help the marker. It would just add a lot more to the world building and make the sprawl feel a lot more alive. And since the place feels bigger, then you realize that there's things going on more than just what's going on around you. I feel like that could add more weight to what's going on and makes you feel a lot more smaller. And because you feel smaller, you feel more vulnerable. And I feel like that's good for horror.
That could
Yeah, that's
work. That could
pretty good.
work. But this would be like a task mostly focused for the animation team.
Mm-hmm.
And truth be told, I hope they will improve this because it's kind of it kind of lacks in the remake.
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like
one thing I do
Sorry?
want to kind of touch on is the hallucinations in the originals. They, like with Dead Space 1, you didn't even know what a hallucination really was until you put your mind to it, which was great. I love that, and I never wanted it to change. But then in Dead Space 2, they put a iron brew filter over the screen, and the same thing with Dead Space 3 is even more intensified, which is just like, really? Like, can we not have it where we don't know if it's a hallucination or not? I would prefer it that way. And in the remake, they actually do play into that a lot, where they subtly tell you it's a hallucination with the symbols on the screen, but they don't give you like that sort of noise and, with the, what do you call it? With the actual filter on the screen. So it actually seems a lot more fluid as well. So you don't know what is a hallucination, if it even is a hallucination or not. Like, and what do you call it? It just subtly tells you that yes, Isaac is hallucinating at this point, but it doesn't throw it straight in your face, like, which I thought was a bit more obnoxious, essentially, of the originals. Which is like, the game just basically holds your hand and says, yes, yes, Isaac is hallucinating. Here is a sign if you need to know. But, like, in the remake, it's like, no, we're not going to hold your hand here.
A bit obvious, you say.
Yeah,
It's kind of, it just destroys the whole immersion for me, essentially, where, like, I'm supposed to be, like, going through this experience, and I'm supposed to be questioning everything, like it's a Saw film or something like that, Like, that's what I feel like with Dead Space is, it's kind of like a Saw film. Like, where it's like, you have to kind of really keep an eye out for all the small details that the film has thrown at you. And so, like, you could be like, aha, I knew that when the reveal happens. But, like, in Dead Space, it's a bit obvious when you're hallucinating. So, like, not like in the original, where it's like, little things happen, little audio spikes in the transmissions happen as well, or necromorphs spawning when they're not actually there. those things, you didn't even know that was an hallucination. You didn't even know Nicole was even just a hallucination until the very end, which
Yeah.
is why that plot twist was so effective. And I feel like they should really have capitalized off of that throughout the whole franchise. Instead of just having Isaac be a continuous character throughout the entire trilogy, I feel like they should have just had like different specific characters essentially instead of, because we could have just had, it could have been like a Bioshock thing where like we don't know what happened to Isaac. He could be dead. He could be missing. He could be in like a complete. He could be in a colony for all we know. But with Bioshock, like it's the same thing with Jack. We don't know what happened to Jack. You know, and then you play as Delta, which is like a Big Daddy sort of prototype in the second game. And then same thing. We know what happened to Delta. He dies. And then we go to a new character in Bioshock Infinite. Same thing could have been done with Dead Space, and you could have really capitalized off of what is real and what's not real, sort of thing, in Dead Space. I like how they do keep a continuous sort of theme with Isaac, but I feel like it's kind of harder to capitalize off of the same thing, essentially, when you've got the same character that would be like, yeah, I already know all this. But you could possibly have it where Isaac has like different experiences but still capitalize off the same thing but in a different scenario sort of thing.
Something
So
similar to
the game can have that, so at the end the game can have that haha gotcha moment sort of thing. Like, now this is what really happened. Like, I would love it if there was a Dead Space game where that actually does happen, like it's like a Saw film sort of thing. Like, so instead of you actually killing necromorphs, the game could reveal it to be that you've actually just been killing civilians all this time and been ripping them apart, which would really fuck with the player. And I would love an experience like that if it was just to really mess with your mind. And that's what that is what the original Dead Space did so well. It messed with your mind so much. Like, you were like, what? Nicole was dead the whole time? Oh my god, and all this stuff. How did this happen? And it just turns out that you were hallucinating. And I really love that aspect in horror games where it just messes with your mind, essentially.
yeah.
Like, it makes you ask questions after you've put down the game.
Mm-hmm. One thing I want to add to the conversation, especially the hallucination part in Dead Space 2, is they were very obnoxious. I will agree that like they hit you like a goddamn train. And one thing that's always been bothered me with Dead Space's storytelling is that subtlety doesn't exist. And when the thing with Dead Space 2 story that really bothers me is that they actually want to tell a pretty, I guess, not I don't know if deep is the right word, but a pretty I guess personal story with Isaac and Nicole. Like, Isaac wants to move on from Nicole because she did, and
But with the remake, we know that her death, well, that just has quite a huge toll on Isaac. Especially that on the remake, the last conversation that they had together ended up in a fight. So that will affect more Isaac.
Yeah, it's awful. And when you when you listen to the dialogue in Dead Space 2, when Nicole is talking, it's pretty dark. Like, she says some wild stuff to him. Like, I don't know if I could say this on YouTube. Like, it's really dark. Like, she would do stuff to her wrist. It's insane.
But sometimes it wouldn't fit. Like, some of those dialogues when you play, like, after you play Dead Space 1 and then you play Dead Space 2, some of the dialogues that Nicole does kind of doesn't add up. So what happened to Dead Space 1? But now with the remake, it does kind of add up.
It does.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that the remake, the EA motive wanted to kind of establish in the remake that the original never did, or that Dead Space 2 never really established for us, was that, Isaac knew that she was dead before he went to the Ishimura, but he had repressed the memory. So therefore, that's why he's not, like, that's why he thinks that he's going to go see Nicole, sort of thing. But the thing with that is, like, in Dead Space 2, we didn't know this. We had to just play a guessing game with the original game. So it was like, Nicole saying like, you must have known that I was dead. Otherwise, why would you have, done that? What was it? To try and make yourself feel better, Isaac? Like, I've had people like literally saying to me like, Isaac knew, this is proof, and it's like that does not add up at all. That is not proof. That is just Nicole like trying to mess with Isaac's head, essentially. It
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't mean shit, essentially.
Especially that Isaac
Like,
wasn't talking in the original, so
if Isaac came to the realization in the second game that that actually was the thing, that would have been great. But what do you call it? And like you could add like a mental breakdown where he's like, I'm such a fucking idiot. Like I could have spared myself all this grief. Like, if I just didn't go to EG7, and he could
yeah.
have had a breakdown moment, and then Ellie could have helped him through that, and like give him the realization that if he hadn't done that, then the Necromorph outbreak would still be going on, and in EG7, and they wouldn't be doing all of this to try and save whoever's still surviving in the sprawl, essentially.
Yeah.
That would have been a really, really good moment in Dead Space 2, but they just sadly didn't put that in.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
there wasn't enough stuff to support that, because with Isaac being a silent protagonist and neither through the journal will like give some indicate that he might have known that Nicole was dead. And he was just like hope, I had hope to find her alive, but there weren't any.
One thing though, like that really annoyed me in Dead Space 2, is that there is no mention of Kendra or Hammond or even the pilots of the original game. Like, it's like the original game just never existed, and this game is just an alternate reality game sort of thing. Like that's what it felt like to me. There's no connection to Dead Space 1.
That's honestly fair. Yeah.
Then the Ishimura. The Ishimura is the only thing that ties Dead Space 2 to Dead Space 1. There's no mention of Hammond or Isaac's guilt over Hammond dying or Kendra dying or something like that, or Isaac feeling betrayed by Kendra. Like, he could have said something with Dana. It's like, oh, not this shit again. Like, alluding to Kendra, he doesn't. Like, that is one thing that really annoyed me. Is like, does this game even take place in the same universe, or is this just a completely different universe?
Yeah, and
just
I'll
had-
continue.
Or is it like sorry, I'm just gonna, or is it like Legend of Zelda where you're just a reincarnation of Isaac?
I just had a really cool idea, and since you mentioned like Hammond and Daniels not really showing up in Dead Space 2. Imagine if they don't show up for the entire game and you go back to the USG Ishimura, right? And it's kind of like how they did, imagine just walking around. They don't show up like on the screen, right? You just walk around, and let's say, like over like some ledge, like the captain ship. I don't remember. Do you go to the flight lounge in Dead Space 2? I can't remember. Anyways,
Yes.
Yeah, you
just
do.
imagine you're walking around, you're looking around, and you just see like Hammond walking. Like he's just doing his thing. That would be
Like-
so fucking creepy.
I was actually just gonna say this, like, in Dead Space 2, the Ishimura was great until the Necromorph showed up, which I feel like just ruined the horror at that point. I'm just like, could we not just have one level, one chapter where the Necromorphs don't even show up? And it's just, building atmosphere, tension, and just trying to spook the player. Not scare them, but just spook them. I had that experience where you walk into the tram station control, and there's like flashing lights all over the place. There's what do you call it, the chatter from the colony, and that is really eerie sort of thing. That builds great atmosphere. Unfortunately, it's all spoiled when the brute shows up.
Yeah.
Which doesn't
With,
even make sense how they managed to get into the ship, like through a hole.
Well, the thing is, where I would say lore-wise, like there were bodies on the ship, so that's how a brute was able to be made and all that stuff. But that's beside the point. Like what you could do with the remake though is like you could just have Nicole messing with Isaac, maybe even like taking the form of Kendra and just really messing with him. Essentially, like Isaac could be like, what do you call it, starting to succumb to the dementia essentially, and start talking to I. You could have a moment where it just basically remakes the, what do you call it, original experience of the first game, where you're walking to the room, and it could be like I think there's another game that does this, like where basically you hallucinate the original intro to the first game. So you could
Uh,
have it where Isaac goes up the elevator
Evil
to
Within.
the I think it might have been the Evil Within.
Hmm.
But like you could add where Isaac goes up the elevator or the lift to the hangar bay.
Hmm.
And then Hammond and Kendra just like, appear. Maybe you could have just like flashes of it happening. Like so Isaac's it kind of gives the player the feeling that Isaac's reliving that experience. So you constantly have these flashes throughout the entire chapter.
Hmm.
That would be really good, to be honest with you. A lot of world building as well. Like, I just feel like the Ishimura should have really been more like a psychological, experience, not a heart pounding action experience.
I mean, why they should
Mhm.
only stop at that? Like they could also, apart from Kendra and Hammond and the crew of the Yuji Kallion, they could also go a bit further and even show some areas populated by the crew members of the ship while they were still
Mm,
alive before the outbreak, making it even
mm.
more like giving more background instead of just I don't know
Oh, you
of
know
what they did
what?
in Dead
You
Space
know
2
what?
with the audio logs that were like cracking, but you will hear the reports like I couldn't sleep, I need this, all that stuff. Like make it even
Yeah.
more psychological.
One thing I that could be a thing with you is like this is a scene from Doctor Who, the Asylum of the Daleks, where Amy sees a bunch of people just dancing around, and there's this ballerina that's just spinning around, and then the Doctor's like, Amy, look again. Those aren't people, and it just turns out those are Daleks right in front of her, and that's the perception filter of the planet messing with her head. You could have that in Dead Space, where you you all of a sudden find survivors of the sprawl hiding in the Ishimura,
Hmm.
and you could have cutscenes where Isaac's actually interacting with these people. And then, boom, it just turns out those aren't people, those are necromorphs. You're hallucinating them to be people. So
And
it's kind of like it's a reverse with the mobile game where you hallucinate that you're a necromorph, but in this case, you're hallucinating that necromorphs are actually people. So, that would be kind of a spooky thing, and it would kind of play on that you can't trust what you see, essentially.
and it will make huge sense because keep in mind that after the explosion, well, after the whole incident on Aegis 7, shards of the marker got into the ship. So maybe Urgov didn't manage to clear all the shards, so some of them could be lurking around, amplifying that effect.
That's the thing, like every single piece of the marker resembles the same sort of template that the marker has. So every tiny speck, until you turn it to dust, essentially, every single piece will retain the original properties. So in salvage, you can see tiny little pieces of the marker, so that there is a chance that there is just still a tiny little piece of the marker in the Ishimura somewhere.
Yeah, the
But it's
cleanup
not.
team didn't manage to extract them.
Yeah.
One thing that got me thinking when it came to a more psychological aspect. The one thing I'm worried about a Dead Space 2 remake, a quick side tangent, is that one of the biggest praises that the first remake got is how faithful it was. And the discussion on a Dead Space 2 remake is that Dead Space 2 remake is going to be very difficult because the game is almost perfect, which I highly disagree with.
Me too.
And I think that a Dead Space 2 remake would probably be best with the Resident Evil 4 route, where it would have quite a few more changes, but keep what that game has, but add a lot more to it. And I think one thing that I would love with the Ishimura, I feel like take away the whole horde thing, because that was just unnecessary. I feel like what would be interesting is imagine if you go to the medical deck, right, and just doing your thing, and you hear Mercer's voice. And imagine like the hunter spawning, right? But it's and what's your reaction? You shoot it immediately, and it's running towards you, and then as it gets close to you, it disappears. Just
Yeah.
it's probably still a cheap jump scare in some sense, but I feel like that's way more memorable and effective than a horde.
That's the thing with what you're saying is that's in a game called Amnesia: The Dark Descent, where you have, if your sanity gets low to a certain extent, then your what do you call it? You will start to hallucinate enemies that aren't even there, sort of thing. So they'll run straight at you, and boom, they just disappear. Like they just like what do you call it? Dematerialize right in front of you, which is
Yeah.
like that's to play into the whole sort of sanity thing, and also trying to be the scariest experience possible. That could be done with Dead Space. I feel like that would be pretty interesting to have.
Also,
You could have
one
cutscenes where Isaac's walking into an area, and then all of a sudden he's like a little whisper in the corner of his ear, sort of thing. That's Mercer, like a snake. Mercer's just whispering into his ear,
yeah.
and then Isaac could turn around, like you could like snap around really quickly with the plasma cutter, and you could just see him kind of nervously twitch with the plasma cutter in his hand. So you can see like this is really deeply affecting him and all that, and this is really getting to him. And this is what I said with the remake about expanding the experience. And those moments could really expand the experience, you know, on a more like, you know, story wise level.
One thing I want to also add is that I mentioned the whole like necromorphs doing their thing while walking around, right? Seeing how they behave in a peaceful environment. One thing I feel like why that's also a good idea is that since you see the necromorphs just behaving naturally and not always attacking you, is that since that adds a lot more to the world and you see necromorphs all around you, they're goddamn everywhere. When you enter the Ishimura and you don't see a single one, that is way more unnerving. And one idea I just had is that the necromorphs, I feel like, do have to appear at some point for the story, like to get up the speed up the pacing, so you have a reason to get out of the Ishimura faster. Is imagine if like what's her name, Ellie, calls you, "Hey Isaac, the necromorphs are coming," and the entire time you're in the Ishimura, it's completely quiet, and as they start entering, you hear the echoes of the screams of the necromorphs getting closer and closer and closer. I feel like that would be so much more unnerving and terrifying because you don't know how many there are. You don't see them coming. You hear them, and that's way more effective than suddenly a horde there. You know it's coming, and and it builds dread. Then suddenly you have to fight an army. It's building suspense. I feel like that would be way more effective in the
But
Ishimura.
it's not only building suspense sort of thing and tension, it's more building that dread that you know they're gonna find you eventually. But it's just a matter of when are they gonna find you?
Exactly.
And how far can you progress before they get there? You could have like a timing sort of thing, so where the player could actually progress even further than the game like intend you to, what do you call it, be at a certain place, and then the necromorphs show up to that certain place, and then the necromorph AIs have to go and find you. That would be really sick, to be fair.
I would say
That would create different experiences throughout each playthrough. So one playthrough, the first one you would be walking, obviously, you'd be taking in the atmosphere and all that stuff, and they find you straight in that trench. Or like, you know, say for instance, they find you in the before you get to the centrifuge inside the quarantine room, or like you know, in your second playthrough, if you're running everywhere, they'll find you either just before the centrifuge or they find you in the centrifuge. That would be really cool, to be fair.
I will say like a good idea about this is to tie it up to a side quest. Like if you plan to do the side quest to find a bit more about what happened afterwards or before your arrival on the ship, like before the events of the remake, it will give you more time to explore and discover new pieces of lore or events that happen to, I don't know, to Nicole, Mercer, other characters that you met up in the remake, or total different ones. But if you don't do those, then it could be based on some triggers, so say. But if you plan to do the side quest, and if you're gonna do as well the new game plus to be a totally different type if you complete some certain task before.
Actually, I was talking to Helios about this yesterday, and this is just in general the one thing we were complaining about right before we started the podcast was about how disgustingly linear Dead Space 2 is. And one idea I have, which I think personally, I think my idea is really good. So, I feel like one thing that could really fix up Dead Space's linearity and could really benefit for multiple playthroughs is since essentially Dead Space 2 is one long hallway, a fork system could be really good. So imagine you're going through, you go into the unitology area, right? And you're in a hallway, or you have to get into a new area. But you're given a choice, and it's kind of like the circuit breaker where you have to turn off air or whatever, or oxygen. But this time it's a hallway, so you have to choose what path you're going to go down in. All of them will go down will go to the same area, but they are wildly different. Be it more, and you have no idea which one you're going to go get into. It might be better or it might be worse, and you have to decide. And I feel like that could be it could add a lot more decision making than just pressing W, and it would make you think, okay, which would be better? Should I go through the vent or should I go through the door? It would just help a lot with the experience, making the sprawl feel bigger than just walking forward. Because as big the sprawl is made up to be, it doesn't feel that big.
Yeah. I would say, have these moments where, just to add a bit more variety to the original experience, is to, instead of just having Isaac walk past these what do you call it, moments of the outbreak where you see there's civilians over there getting ripped apart by necromorphs. Why not have Isaac just interact with that, having to walk through that essentially, instead of it's just behind a broken down barricade, so you can't really get there. It's kind of like the ocean with Bioshock 1, where it's always at a distance sort of thing. And it's the same thing with Dead Space 2 with the outbreak. It's always at a bloody distance. You're never in the initial outbreak. It's just the same thing as Dead Space 1, whereas the initial outbreak, it's already happened. You're just walking through the aftermath of it. And it's the same thing in Dead Space 2, where, sometimes you do see, survivors and they try to run towards you, but boom, they get cut down by a necromorph and you kill the necromorph. But, I really don't like these scripted events where it's just, they just distance the outbreak from you.
Yeah, it just limits you.
Isn't the idea of Isaac being in an outbreak supposed to be that you're in the outbreak, not at a distance, essentially? I know that Dead Space is more of an isolating sort of horror game, but if you're gonna put him in an outbreak, at least let me walk through places, try and help and save survivors. You could even have you could save a survivor, and the survivor just runs away, goes into another door. You follow him as Isaac, but the door slams shut in front of you, and then all of a sudden you hear and then you hear the person scream and die.
Yeah.
That would really make you feel powerless, essentially. That would give you that feeling of being powerless to save anybody. Because it's just I just saved this guy and he ran back into his own apartment where he got murdered by another necromorph that I couldn't save him from. That would be pretty good.
Or you help them out, they follow you, and after you reach a certain point, for example, the transport train, you and the survivors get aboard, but they get separated because, I don't know, some sort of trigger, you need to go to the wagon that it's far away from you, and you need to fly, and you need to leave behind the survivors. Adding a bit more weight, okay, I saved these people, but the thing is that if I want to continue, I cannot bring them with me because I don't have the resources, or that my suit is not strong enough to carry. So I just need to do this decision to leave them behind, and hopefully they'll survive or they'll just get slaughtered.
That gives me a very interesting idea. You could have that where, like, you have to make these decisions throughout the entirety of the campaign, and it kind of gives you different, like each decision essentially that you make in this story essentially changes the whole outlook you have over the entirety of the game. Like, say for instance, like you want to save these survivors, but the game has an inbuilt timer essentially, like Dead Rising, like where like you go and escort all of these survivors that you've huddled up before you go to the Church of Unitology, and then you take them to a landing pad. They get off, and you have to defend this landing pad from necromorphs and all that stuff that want to kill these civilians. And after you've completed it, essentially, the environment is drastically different from how you left it. What do you call it? Maybe the lights are off. Maybe all this stuff happens, and these events don't happen if you just leave the survivors. Essentially, you don't have to deal with it when you come back. You know, the same thing when you go to the Church of Unitology in the original, and what do you call it? You go back to the area that you just came from, the Cassini Towers. It's all dark. It's all dark, and you know it's completely different from how you first entered it. So I feel like having moments like that could really be quite good for replayability and adding sort of like, do I want to save these survivors? Because if I do this, I'm kind of putting myself at risk here. Same thing with the remake, where you want to go and revisit these areas to go and collect, like, say for instance, another part to a weapon. You kind of ask yourself the question, do I really want to go there? Because I might be putting myself at risk here by doing that, but it has a really good part, like, say for instance, the thing for the plasma cutter, I can't remember what it's called, but like, the thing that allows you to knock over enemies.
Waiter blades.
Yeah. So, you know, some people will be like, do I really want to go there? Because it might not even be the part I'm looking for, and I could really put myself at risk. And, you know, on these really hardcore sort of difficulties, you're like kind of asking yourself, do I really want to try and see that? I mean, I could be rewarded with the part I'm looking for, but then again, I could die, or like I could put myself in a situation where I could possibly die,
or waste lots of resources.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, with Dead Space 2, you could have the exact same thing, where it's like, you know, you have these sort of side quests, like save these survivors and escort them to the landing pad, but the whole game is on a in-game timer, so basically, like, what do you call it? You could have it like where the core could be overheating in the government sector because Vandal hasn't been able to stop the creature in there altogether. She's only managed to delay it essentially from destroying the core. So, like, you could have the whole game built around an in-game timer. Whereas, like, you know, a normal playthrough, if you just ignore every single side quest, then you can complete it essentially, no sweat. But in another playthrough where you're trying to 100% the game, it could be slightly a bit more difficult, and you only just barely, like, kind of like with Halo when you have that timer at the last mission, you know, and you get to the what do you call it, the shuttle, and every time I'm always like, I've only got like seconds before the whole ring explodes as I'm getting to the the ship. So, like, you could have the same thing with the what do you call it? With Dead Space 2. Like, you could have it where it's like, you know, Isaac only just has like minutes away before the entire station goes up in flames and all that stuff, where that would be really cool to see. Like, you don't have to have the timer in the background.
Yeah, just having like some indication in the area, like something's off, and you need to act fast.
You could have it where it's like, what do you call it, the announcer and all that stuff. Like, say for instance in Dead Space Dead Space Remake, when you get to chapter 11, the whole ship starts to shake and all that stuff, and yeah, like that really is spooky and eerie. You could have the same thing with the sprawl, where like instead of it shaking, you can see certain things starting to malfunction, and what do you call it? The announcer could say, "Warning, warning!"
Yeah,
Like
I'll see in sections.
the core is overheating to such and such and such percent. You know, you could also have Dead Space 2 where it's like, what do you call it? You're not actually in the outbreak. You're like, you know, the outbreak is happening around you. But the reason why you're isolated is because like Isaac has woken up, like, what do you call it?
In
Just
an
after,
early, yeah.
just after it's all happened, essentially. Kind of like in, oh, what was it called? Space Odyssey, I think it might be. Where like the person wakes up out of cryos sleep and everybody's dead around him essentially, so you don't know what the hell's going on here. And you know, in Dead Space 2 you could have the whole same thing with Isaac waking up out of his stasis and finding that everyone has mysteriously died. You can hear distant roars of necromorphs, and you do encounter a few of them and all that, but it's not as like how it is in what do you call it, the original experience.
Yeah, that I
Like
wake
that
up
would
and
be
you're already
really
thrown at your face. The fact that there's another outbreak happening.
mm,
They could
yeah,
make like a
like
bit of
it.
build up,
I
so to
don't think
say.
that you need. I don't think you need to have Isbis to have that chase sequence. I don't think it's necessary. You could just have it where like the outbreak has happened essentially. Or there, yeah, if you want to play into the whole chase sequence thing, you could have it where Franco turns into a necromorph and you have to hide from the necromorph. You have to like because you're powerless at this point. Your arms are bound, so you could have that sort of thing playing that whole thing like where it's the first chapter essentially is kind of like a psychological horror where you have to try and hide away from this necromorph that is patrolling and trying to find you and kill you. And the same thing with the EarthGov soldiers until you're able to what do you call it, gate your like until the person cuts you out of the straitjacket.
Or you find a way to
um
cut yourself the restraints.
yeah, exactly. So like what do you call it, then at that point you're like, right, I've got I'm able to use my arms now. I've got a flashlight. Let's like turn the tables on our enemies. Like so from a whole chapter where you've just been powerless the whole time, now you're really just getting your power back essentially.
Yeah,
And I feel like
just
that would play into Isaac's sort of journey as well, like because Isaac is supposed to be powerless, and this is a story of him getting his power back. Essentially,
yeah,
this
and
is a story of him moving past what happened, and basically letting go of it all in order to secure his future. Like that. That is the whole story of Dead Space 2. Is like getting over the guilt of Nicole, and
as
that would
well
heavily play into it.
as well showcasing more of his engineering skills and his I call it quick
Survival skills.
adaptation. Yeah, like adapting very fast to the current situation, just like in the remake.
Yeah, we just show like his what do you call it? Like how his experience on the Ishimura has kind of warped him and changed him essentially from someone that would like from someone that what do you call it, isn't used to that sort of environment. Now he's like a hardened warrior in the second game.
Or having the how you call it, the personality to adapt fast to any situation, because Isaac,
You could have it. You could have it like where it's like a veteran from Viet Cong, so
Level
or
headed, I guess.
Vietnam.
yeah,
One
That would
idea
be really cool.
I want to just throw out there, which I highly doubt is gonna ever happen because this sounds like a goddamn technical nightmare to get right. But have any of you seen the movie 28 Weeks Later?
yes,
Bits of it.
So there's this scene. One thing I think that could be really cool is imagine like you're on the outbreak, right? But everyone's running around you, like everyone's trying to get out and survive, And in the scene in 28 weeks later, there's one scene where there's an infected, and everyone's evacuating, going out of the same door, and you don't know who is infected, who's not. Imagine if you're coming out and there's a bunch of people around you just running, and you can barely tell who the necromorph is. You can barely see it, and you can use your guns, you can shoot, but imagine just shooting and trying to find out who the right necromorph is, and not trying to kill innocent people. I don't
So
know what the consequence would be who you kill, but you know,
like a new type of necromorph, like an infiltrator.
like the boring one with the hatchets in Dead Space 3. The
Yeah,
I would
the
say I would
fathers.
prefer.
The
I'd
fathers.
say I would prefer a necromorph that does infiltrate a survivor group and try to blend in, essentially, like a
Mhm.
sleeper agent. That would be really cool to see, like
like
a
I mean,
necromorph that tries to hide with the survivors only to
mhm.
kill them. That would
like
be really cool to see.
imagine,
Like in Terminator, they have the infiltrator Terminators.
I would say the
yeah,
fathers kind of fit that description because in the
yeah,
midst of the chaos, won't like be able to analyze who's a person and who's not, and the fathers
Mm,
might be the perfect choice for that.
hmm
Until it's too
one
late.
also note that should be probably taken into account is that since everyone's running around, there's people dying, necromorphs are slashing people's limbs off, everyone's covered in blood too. You can barely tell what the hell is happening. Like that is sounds like such a that really emphasizes the outbreak feeling too. I think like literally the outbreak has begun. Not everyone is infected yet, and you see panic. I feel like that could really work.
That could
mm,
really work as a cutscene, like when you get out of the medical hospital and you get into the any public sector, and then when you open the doors, just like in that scene where you see that woman trying to get us uh
Grandmother, I
away,
think.
yeah, away from that slasher, but sadly she can. Instead of that, just when you open the door, having survivors just coming out, and you being like in disarray or just like what the hell is going on, so
Hmm.
say, and seeing firsthand the chaos of the early outbreak.
Yeah. Also, one idea I had that could be really good for world building and really
Hmm.
goddamn brutal is imagine like survivors trying to get out of a apartment or something like that, right? And a slasher is chasing them, and imagine them being blocked off by unitology members, like for
Ooh,
them to like get killed. Like then they're intentionally stopping them. They're like trying to like say, oh, the convergence is about to begin. Embrace it. Like I feel that could be really good for
I like
environmental
it.
storytelling.
Oh, that's a good idea. I truly like it. I'm already imagining it, and it's
Hmm. Like there's a lot of things you could do with the sprawl, because the one thing, one criticism I have that really holds back Dead Space 2 from Dead Space 1 is that as as varied as Dead Space 2's sprawl is, it doesn't have that good of an atmosphere as in Dead Space 1. And I don't want the same atmosphere back. I want a completely new, different one. Something that a new type of like fear. And I feel like since it's a open area, constantly running around, like you have a new opportunity to develop a new type of anxiety for the series that was missing from the original.
makes sense. Like yeah, and also like being able to explore more areas or
Yeah,
revisit some areas. I mean, in the original we do revisit some, but only because it's kind of forced. Like in
yeah.
chapter, well, was it chapter 6 that you
yep,
return to the Cassini Towers area,
yep, yeah,
which I don't
yeah, you
know
do.
why they're in comparison to other location, but well,
Mhm.
I can.
Also, I just got a really good idea for environmental storytelling again. Since we're running around, we're seeing this outbreak, going on. What if, considering the fact this is this quote unquote boss fight, is pretty much just a cutscene. I forgot the necromorph's name. The one that you see when you get betrayed by the Unitology. Imagine if you see
Tormentor.
that the Tormentor. Imagine if you see that thing being created during the outbreak, the initial one, like a huge body pile, like you see being developed, and you see it in one area, return to it, and it's a bit changed, and then you leave, and then when you keep going, moving towards the Unitology, then you hear its echoes. It's like it's been birthed. I feel like that could add some fear, I guess, or what's the word I'm looking for? I guess build up to the tormentors reveal. Since you keep hearing these unique new screams that you haven't heard, and they're massive, and then when you finally get betrayed and you fall right in front of it, there it is. That's the thing that you saw this whole giant body pile of civilians turn into.
One thing I would actually like with the Tormentor is if it was just stalking you throughout the entire game, and then that would be the final boss. You've been staring at this thing, seeing like glimpses of its true body mass throughout the whole thing. Maybe you see like one of its legs at some point through. It's in space. It's been stalking you. Maybe at some point it's, what do you call it? You could hear its roars and groans and all that stuff coming towards you, and you have to try and hack that. What do you call it? You do the hacking game a bit quicker, and it's kind of making you fail a little bit, and like, trying to get that door open as fast as possible before this massive bellowing thing just comes straight into the area and rips you apart. Like, you could have moments like that, and then like, what do you call it? Other moments where you actually just see the face of this thing, just like staring at you through a window. That would be really cool to see. Certain moments, or maybe have like a brute moment where like the arm smashes through a window and causes decompression. Like,
Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Causing like random events. But now that I mentioned that hacking, instead of just being like a certain how you call it, events, it could be like a false type. Like, imagine that it failed, but instead of hearing the thing coming at you, it just goes to another survivor and you hear the screams, giving that false security, well, false safety feeling, like playing with you, as well, bringing it in the place of the intensity, the director, like could play a bit with this.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like, have the tormentor just like messing with you, and all that stuff. Like, kind of scoping you out before it jumps in. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, having like
But
another presence.
that would show it has like a bit more of an advanced sort of complex going on than the other necromorphs do. So like, instead of just jumping straight into the battle, it like kind of observes its prey before it really jumps in and tries to take you out. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
That's why it's called the Tormentor.
Yeah, I mean, it will give the creature like a huge intelligence capacity to play.
It would give the necromorph a huge presence throughout the whole game, building up until the final boss. That would be sick.
One idea is like in the Unitology Church, when the tripod jumps on you, right? It's a massive like area, and imagine just looking up and you see it. It looks at you, but it's in the corner of your eye. You have to look for it. It's kind of like imagine it's like Half-Life 2, but it's just like a giant G-Man, essentially.
Yeah. Or you could have it like where there's like a blacked out area, and you could see like pieces of the, what do you call it, the limbs hanging onto the side of the walls, like kind of like a giant spider in the room. But that would be kind of creepy, to be fair.
I feel
you could see like maybe you could have like its eyes glowing, essentially. Like you see its eyes glowing, and it's like, oh shit, what the fuck is that? I need to get the fuck out of here really quite quickly before that thing knows I'm here. Like that would it, not to have Isaac say that, but just have it be lingering in the air, sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That would be kind of terrifying.
and if you want to like I don't know, bring light to the area, you could just use your tool to shoot at the candles to create a bit of a light to see parts of the ceiling of area, so you can have a little advantage.
Yeah.
That could
I
work.
wanna add more to
You could
the
also have sorry. You could also have it where you shine the flashlight at his face and then get a death sequence straight away, like an insta kill.
Oof.
Because like it's not you're not supposed to see it before the end of the game, so you could have it where it drops down and just instantly just destroys you. Maybe not you, or maybe have a limb that kind of flings out and just rips Isaac to shreds.
I don't know if that will work because keep in mind that the visor and the rig kinda creates a bit of light. So,
No, I mean like what do you call it? Actually, directly shining your flashlight in its face.
yeah. Or you could see. Here's the idea. You could see like before encountering like seeing a survivor, group of survivors going into the area, but you like not being in the area and see what happens. And Isaac could just deactivate his rig and his visor.
Yeah. That'd be cool. And like what do you call it? Like in the Evil Within, where you face something that does look kind of like the Tormentor or the same mass anyway. Like Sebastian has to like what do you call it? Hide from it essentially. Like get behind one of those metal support structures. Not metal. Concrete support structure things in the parking lot. You could have the same thing with Isaac, where he's like, what do you call it? Kind of like in Jurassic World, where like the guy just goes underneath the Jeep, and he knows he's about to be like you just see what's happened to that guy, so he's thinking, oh shit, this could happen to me. So he just pulls out his knife and rips open a what do you call it? One of the petrol or gas pipe, and just cuts it in half and douses himself in it, essentially, so he doesn't give off a scent.
Yeah,
Like-
or the location.
Yeah, so Isaac could do that. He could like you know, you could see like the creature is about to turn around, so he quickly darts out of the way of the sight and deactivates his what do you call it rig, so he doesn't give off that light.
Or
Because you could have it where Isaac's in a pitch black area, and like what do you call it? He just deactivates his suit rig, so he's not giving off any light, so he doesn't announce his presence.
or use a stasis shot to create like a false light location when it impacts.
You could have both always. You could always have both.
Yeah.
One idea I had about since the Tormentor is the idea of the Tormentor being a stalker is you know that one part in Dead Space 2. It's when you enter the room with the mines, like it's a complete hallway, and for a split second when you enter the hallway, a body falls on you, right? Imagine that, but in a different area, and for a second the game like takes control away from you, and you stop for a brief second. But isn't a body that falls on you? It's blood, and it doesn't take away from the camera control. Just blood drips on you, and you have the option to move forward if you want to, if you're in a hurry, but if you choose to investigate what the hell is dripping blood from the ceiling, it's the Tormentor. He's eating a body. And when you do look up, imagine like a leg fall on you.
That's interesting because I just imagined that scene. Oof.
Especially in the
you
Unitology
could have,
church area with the lighting.
One thing I would actually like to see with the Tormentor is like the first time you actually see it, it just like looks like the Hunter essentially, and it's just you can see it ripping someone apart essentially, like how it would in the remake or in the original game.
I'm
Like
with you.
with the execution, yeah. Like in what do you call it? In the Dead Space 2 remake, you could have it like that, where it just literally looks like the Hunter, but it's more pale and looks more like the skin of a Tormentor. and then over time, it builds its body mass until it becomes the tormentor. You could have like mini boss battles with the thing. Like, say for instance, the hunter necromorph. Like Isaac could be like, oh no, not again, like sort of thing. Like, I hate these things. Like, like you could have that, and he has to try and escape this hunter, and he eventually does escape it. But over the course of time, you could have little mini boss battles with it, and it's taken on new forms. You could have that even. Like, obviously, you can't have it stalking you and then like messing with you and having mini boss battles because it just destroys its presence. But like, kind of ruins the whole big reveal of it. Over time, you could have little glimpses of him, and you could like allude, "Oh, is this a small necromorph? Is it a big necromorph? Is this going to be a problem for me later?" Like all these different things you could do with the tormentor.
Yeah, and if the director has like a good control as well of the events, the scripts for the tormentor, that will be even a plus when it comes to horror elements. I mean, we have all. Sorry, continue.
One thing I want to also add. Sorry, I moved my mic. One thing I also want to add, since you mentioned Jurassic Park, and I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan, is one thing it also could be really effective at showing the tormentor's presence or as a threat is if you don't see it. But how do you do that? You could use sound, but what I think would be really cool is using the like the scene in the first Jurassic Park when the T-Rex shows up. You don't see it, but you notice its weight, the sound, how everything shakes. Like, imagine you're walking through a hallway and you just see those props from the unitology start shaking because something big is walking around.
Well, imagine this, like kind of like with the brute sort of thing. Like before you actually engage with a brute, you hear its bellowing roar, and you see some things that it's destroyed, which is kind of good. Like, you could also have like the same thing with Jurassic World. You could have like a claw mark on the wall, like this really massive like claw mark, like just 2 lines on the wall essentially, and like it could, like that could really tell you something like, what the fuck made that, like, and that would really start to play with your mind. How big are these necromorphs getting? Like that would really, because like just showing that essentially with maybe like a growl in the distance and maybe a few screams. Maybe hearing some survivors like, "Oh my god, it's massive," like, stuff like that. Yeah, like, like that would create quite a big presence essentially, and having that show don't tell essentially. That could really play on the whole like, oh, someone like using someone else's imagination to build up this big threat. It's the same thing as you said, Effa.
That sounds frightening. Not gonna lie, this whole topic about the tormentor sounds very like amazing for us. But I have this question: is the community ready for something like this? Like the community to
I don't
to
know.
be ready for this, because this is too much. I mean, for us, it's amazing. Like we hope that we can get something similar like this, but yeah, I don't know if the casual, I don't know, the casual people or even some veterans are ready for this level of, I won't say shenanigans, but because this is like top-notch next level to both horror, psychological, and terror for coming from the necromorphs. Like the ability for the marker to create such atrocities, so say.
Well, maybe it'll help to differentiate it from other horror games. Innovate on what's been before.
that our biggest concern right now isn't even the community. It's even knowing if is even possible with their budget.
Yeah. I
The game
was
is massive, and so they have some good ideas. Some unfortunately have to be sacrificed. It's like in filmmaking when you have a great scene and you have to cut it for the whole picture. It's literally killing your babies.
no.
Mm.
I would say the biggest
You mean,
concern that I
you
have for
mean
Dead Space 2 remake is that I hope they don't go with the same approach that they did with the first remake, to go
I agree.
safe. Like I would say improve. Like risk it. Like you already built up a community and our trust with the first remake, in which there are some parts that I'm not glad that they haven't at least attempted to expand or the risk a bit. But for Dead Space 2 remake, if they're
well,
gonna go with the safe route, I will say
but the
that will
thing,
give a bit more damage.
the thing is, with the tormentor stalking you, we've already seen this. We've seen it with the hunter, we've seen it with Ubermorph, and we've seen it with the snow beast. So,
Yeah,
like, it's nothing new. It's just something to improve and expand upon what came before,
yeah,
and to give the tormentor more justice to its appearance, essentially, than it was in the original game. Because the original game, it was a fucking joke. It was a joke. Oh, I just stasis it, run, move this thing out of my way, and then just run, and that's
yeah,
it. Done.
yeah,
And then shoot one fire canister, boom, kill two birds with one stone, and that's it. It's just like, really? That's the big thing that destroyed a door a minute ago. Like, come on, like
yeah,
what the
Yeah.
hell?
I feel like with the Dead Space 2 remake overall, I feel like they should take their route as keeping everything that was in the original in, but just adding more in that,
Yeah.
like that would add more to the product. So I feel like overall, Dead Space 2 is a fantastic game. It's probably my favorite game in the series. I just feel like they just need to add just a few more ingredients to the whole recipe to make it really stand out. Be it environmental storytelling, more boss fights, just a few things. Of course, some things have to be changed.
yeah,
Definitely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
not really, not just reoccurring boss fights either. Like I hated the tripod things. They are so repetitive to deal with.
Yeah, like
Especially when what do you call it? You shoot a limb and it doesn't even blow off. It's just like, really, I shot so much into it.
yeah,
With
and
like
the
for
that's it.
example, one replacement for the tripod could be the tormentor. Like when the tripod jumps on you at the church, it could be the tormentor.
well, actually, no. Like you could have the tormentor in the very beginning of the game because you have a tripod area there. Get rid of the tripods altogether and just have tormentor. Like
I
or
feel like
like
you should have
have the.
some build up to the
Oh yeah.
tormentor.
You. You could have it like where the tormentor has been stalking you throughout the whole thing, and then the game just goes, "Ah, it was just a hallucination the whole time." Could even
But
have it where it could have been a hallucination the whole time, but the face of what do you call it? The face around like the bit about around the nose and the eyes could have been Nicole's face. So like you've been hallucinating that. Obviously, it's not like you can just barely make it out, but the end and the last boss fight is you have to defeat the demon within yourself. Essentially, that is Nicole, and that would make Nicole's boss fight so much better. Have her be the tormentor, essentially, and have that be the demon that's kind of clawing away at Isaac's mind. I think that would be pretty good. Obviously, we would have some moments when Nicole does pop up and all that stuff, but I feel like having the Tormentor be like a distorted version of her would be kind of cool. Kind of like in The Evil Within 2.
I feel like that's hard to pull off. I feel like that should have a complete visual change of the tormentor. Because one idea, like when I pictured that, in my head, I just imagined the tormentor with just like Nicole's face as a PNG just on it.
Well, no, because like you already have all the assets for it essentially to be Nicole. You know, because like all you're doing is showing the eyes and like the nose, and that's it. That's all you're doing. You're not showing eyebrows or a pair of lips or anything like that. Because, like as I said, it's a heavily distorted version of what Nicole is to Isaac. You know. But you could also have two different versions. You could have that demonic, tormenting version, and you could have like what do you call it? What do you call it? Oh, you could also have the slightly less demonic Nicole. You know, you could have the staticky Nicole.
Yeah.
You know,
Also,
or maybe have a good cop, a bad cop. One's trying to help you, while the other one's trying to rip your head off, essentially. So.
one thing we have to take into account with the torment is that we can't give it all the room it wants, because we have to take into account it's not the only stalker in the game. There's also the Ubermorph.
You could also play on that whole sort of thing, like where it's too big for the environment. As I said before, you could have an arm shoot through the wall or through a what do you call it, the space vacuum. You know, like you could have that. You could also have moments where it tries to pull you out into space, but then it gets its arm crushed by one of those doors. Or one of the window things, the shutters. So it gives you that presence, but it doesn't reveal it altogether. You know, I'm just throwing out suggestions.
Yeah.
Here. I'm not like, you know, I'm not saying that's something that should happen. I'm saying you could have it happen.
Yeah, they're more like ideas.
Yeah.
Not possible.
It's just one of those things that's hard to pull off because of its size. I think one of the biggest challenges with pulling off the Tormentor is you don't want a RE3 remake with a Nemesis where it's just what's the word I'm looking for? Coded in, things happening. So it's not a separate AI. It's set to do a very specific thing. So if you do replays, it's going to always do the same thing, and that's it's going to get boring after a while. So we don't want a Nemesis type of situation for the Tormentor, because that's going to be disappointing as well. It's you have to be
you want to have some
careful.
scripted moments in the game.
A script, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
They could implement something like what they did with the bosses in Extraction. So, say, as an example. That could be like a possibility, but yeah, with Extraction work because it was a railgun type game, but for like
you want to have
main title.
You want to have the what do you call it? Scripted moments of the Tormentor, essentially, to build its presence up. So stuff like the environmental storytelling. That stuff, like maybe it'll become background wallpaper after a while, but like it's for the what do you call it? The experience of it all, sort of thing. So you get that presence, and that stuff. Like if you have that in a game, essentially, people even talk about stuff like the first Halo game, like how the plot twist was so good, sort of thing. How, like, what do you call it? You've been gun hoeing it throughout the whole game, destroying the Covenant and basically making them all look shit at their jobs and all that stuff. And then you get to this new level where it's like just a dark, foggy swamp, and the Covenant are completely scattered. You see drop ships like littered all over the place. You see what do you call it? Like drop ships from the UNSC. And then you get to this. You see like some figures off in the distance, and they like on your radar it says friendlies. And you're like, oh, so why are they running away from me? Like like you don't see, you just see the silhouette, and that's it. And then you get to what do you call it? You get to the actual facility, and you see this gunfire going off inside, and the Covenant are running away. And they look scared. They've got the elites are not there, or the Sangheli's, whatever. Like they're not there. Like it's just the grunts and the jackals, and that's it. Like they're all scattered and they're scared of something, and you have to kind of wonder what the hell are they scared of. They've been like really like a menace throughout the whole game. So what could this faction that is so bad, so terrible, be scared of? And it kind of plays into meet the enemy that the Covenant, meet the only enemy the Covenant fears. Like, so how bad could this thing be? And if you eventually find out what happened to your comrades, and it turns out that they found the enemy, and it turns out that's the flood, you know. So people today still say like, "Oh, it's such a masterclass in building like suspense and horror and all that stuff." Like, it's just little things like that, build up. It stays with you throughout, every single playthrough. It stays with me when I play through Halo. It's just like, damn, like it's still very effective after my 50th playthrough. Because of just how eerie it is. And so that's in relation to what you said about scripted moments becoming a bit more like background wallpaper. You need to have scripted moments like that in the game. Otherwise, like having everything randomized, just it won't be as effective as it could be. That's what I'm trying to say. You want to have an effective experience every single time you play through it. And yes, there is going to be the risk of someone becoming desensitized to it, but because you have that risk, doesn't mean you don't script anything, or it doesn't mean that you don't script these certain moments into the game at all, which I feel like, it kind of holds back the experience as well. Now, sure enough, you could have randomized moments where these occurrences happen throughout the whole game, but you want to have some sort of scripted moments in the game so you can actually build up that presence of the Tormentor.
Now that we came back to the Tormentor topic, there's something that came in my mind, like for the final encounter with the Tormentor after consigning with Nicole or the marker version of Nicole. Imagine that during the final encounter, the marker or Nicole, whatever you want to call it, guides you to how to destroy it during the process. Like what you need to do, where you need to go to trigger that, and so forth. Making it a bit more of a cinematic and as well.
You could have it where, like, what do you call it? There are machines in the area with you. And, what do you call it? You could use stasis to get inside, like, kind of like the fans in, Extraction, or like in, the Callisto Protocol. So when you use stasis on it, you can get into the center of it.
Yeah.
And then the Tormentor shoves its arm after you, and then you only just jump out in time, and it mangles its arm and, like, twists it completely off, and or slices it completely off. That would be really interesting to see that.
Yeah, that could work out.
One thing I
'Cause it
want
doesn't
to
have
bring
it.
up.
Sorry, I was just gonna say it doesn't have any, infected flesh or anything like that. Well, in the original it did, but like I would have it where it doesn't have any of that, so it looks almost indestructible. So sorry, what are you gonna say, Efra?
I just wanted to say that I feel like one thing that Dead Space 2 should absolutely improve on, and I wish they did this in the original remake, was improve the boss fight. Because I feel like the Hive Mind boss fight has never been really that special, and I feel like if they should just completely remake the boss fights in Dead Space 2 and make them better and make them actually memorable. Like, for example, I think if the Tormentor was to be a boss fight, or even just a tripod, I feel like they should go like the Dark Souls route, and not in the sense where it should be, insanely difficult or something like that. Have just unpredictability when it came to the fights, in the sense where you're fighting it, and you usually tend in Dead Space you'll learn the patterns of the enemies pretty fast. They do them pretty often. But imagine if you're, I don't know, getting close and suddenly there's a new fucking attack. It's on the goddamn ceiling. Make them special, make them unique from the other enemies. And not just because of the size, or it has a big yellow sack on it. That's a weakness.
The thing is, like, with the brutes, you could have it be like how it was first concepted to be the swinger, You can still do that with the brute. You can still have it climb onto things and all that because it's got like big gorilla arms. So surely that should mean it's very strong.
Yeah, like take the what's the goddamn guy's name in Resident Evil 4? The goddamn priest with a hat, the stalker in the beginning of the game.
The beginning of the game.
Like when you shoot him, half of his body comes off, and he becomes like this big bug thing. I forgot his name. He's
Las Plagas.
the Las Plagas, but the boss fight where Leon throws the barrel. He says,
Mendes. Father
yeah,
Mendes.
Mendes. Thank you. Imagine like you shoot him off, like his half of his body, and he completely becomes a different AI. He's throwing stuff at you, and you actually have to dodge. Like make the fight faster. Like the hive mind is this. It looks like a spectacle, but he's a complete pushover. You don't even have to sprint in the fight. You can just walk. Like have those enemies genuinely feel like they want to kill you.
Oh, well, I don't know, when you have a fully upgraded force gun on your hands, I don't know if that would help them.
Maybe. We'll see. Maybe they have like they take the yellow sack for once and they throw it at you. They just like fuck you. I no longer have a weak point. That like subverts my expectations
You could
as
also
a Dead
have it
Space
where
fan.
Or
you
use
could
the
also have it
tethers.
with you could also have with the stalkers. Instead of them just jumping over, like say for instance, obstacles, you could have them like what do you call it? Almost kind of like the jumping jacks from Die Rise and Black Ops 2, where they're like jumping all the way around and like bouncing off the walls, like kind of like a necromorph that's doing parkour. That would be interesting to see, to be honest with you. You don't have to fully animate it, obviously. Just like, kind of like how they do in Dead Space 2, but just make the stalker a little bit more, um, adaptive to its environment, essentially, or like, what do you call it? A bit more agile, essentially, because it's supposed to be a lightweight necromorph. It's not supposed to be just like, oh yeah, it runs really fast. Like, you could have it where it just like parkours and bounces off walls, essentially, to try and get to you.
I don't know why I imagine, the typical cats when they run that they can slip, like they do the slippery on on the floor, something like that. Imagine a stalker doing that. That would be quite silly. I don't know why I imagined that.
It would be cute. I love my stalkers. They're my babies.
Ugh, yeah, until they hit you.
Also, this is just a neat idea that I've been thinking of for a while now, actually, that I want Motive to do. Does anyone remember the contest for the original Dead Space 2, where you had to think of the kill animation? It would be kind of cool if they did that again.
That would be nice.
It would be nice. It's just a nice thing to do for with the community.
Dude.
I guess what kill animation would you do?
I actually have an idea. I've thought of one like recently.
The one from
It
God
relates
of War.
to the. I'm sorry.
The one from God of War. That he grabs those lizards and just smashes them on the floor. Poof, poof, poof.
I mean, I wish, but we have to take into account that Isaac is not Kratos.
God damn it.
One idea I had is like, with the stalker actually, like the stalker jumps on him, he's trying to bite him, and after the quick time event, he manages to, like, kind of almost like pin the stalker, holding its hand. They're both on the floor. It's hard to explain what I'm thinking, but it's like crappled onto the stalker's arm, and it can't move. And he uses his leg to just break its neck and try to break off its head. Like it's holding down on one arm its body, and it's trying to. And Isaac is trying to like just rip its head off with his leg. I feel like that could be kind of cool.
I don't know.
It's hard to explain.
I don't know why that gives me the Helios vibe when Kratos rips off Helios' head. No, not my head.
Now I'm just now you got me thinking about God of War. Now I'm just imagining like Isaac getting goddamn betrayed again by Nicole. Is like, marker. And it's just an angry face. Have you seen that? You know the cutscene I'm talking about in God of War 3, where Kratos is like Zeus, and he's
Yeah.
just upset, like really cartoony, upset face. I'm just imagining that with Isaac.
You know,
Nicole.
Isaac. What do you call it? Actually faced off against Zeus, right?
Yeah. In
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. I
in All
forgot about that.
Stars PlayStation.
What a like just a nemesis, like, oh, Isaac, the guy who kills like what space zombies. Oh, why he's finding now a Greek god.
Probably something. It has something to do with religion and the whole godly
I
powers.
guess. Yeah. Also, one thing I want to go back to, completely forgot about this, but Helios briefly mentioned about the animations of the Necromorphs feeling a bit off. I feel like in the Dead Space remake specifically, I feel like in the remake the animation work is fantastic. I think the problem is the animation direction. I talked about this in my Dead Space video for like 2 years now. I think it's been, so not that many people have seen it. But what I said was the problem I think with the Necromorphs in the Dead Space remake, at least movement wise, animation wise, is that they move right, in the sense like they move they move as they should with the proportions they have. And in the original, the Necromorphs moved like a complete corpse, like they barely held on together, and that's what made them creepy. And like when you see the Necromorphs run in the remake, they look like they're running, like they're like completely fine. They're not moving their arms around. They don't look like killing machines. They look more sophisticated, and I think that takes away from the I feel like the enemy's brutality, and I feel like that it takes away a lot of the character from them.
Yeah, the personality for
Mhm.
each type of necromorphs. Like the original, they
Yeah,
had
but
their
the thing is though, in the original, the Necromorphs had to do the slashers had to do a running start before it could actually just jump slash you. In the
Mhm.
remake, they just walk up to you and jump slash you. It's just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it,
How do you even like counter that?
it's just a directional thing.
hmm.
And the animation team knocked it out of the park when it comes to like other necromorphs. I mean, take the goddamn Twitcher.
Oh
That
yeah,
thing is terrifying when you're
the
running at
Twitcher
you.
got a huge improvement.
God damn, that thing is like I want that. The Twitcher is so close to beating the Stalker for me as my favorite enemy in Dead Space. It's pretty much perfect. It's horrifying.
Yeah, and also it's not that easy to defeat either. Like even if you take if you shoot at the stasis location
Hmm.
after its effect wears off, it's still going to be difficult to deal with it if you haven't
Yeah, it
done.
doesn't want to go down.
Yeah.
God damn, I love the Twitchers, my baby.
Yeah. I hope they will make a return in the Dead Space remake and not on Severed.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like the animation part is pretty widely discussed, so I feel like that's going to be probably addressed. I'm trying to think what else should be changed. I just remembered. This is going to be controversial, but I feel like it was improved in the remake compared to the original, and I feel like they should go even further. I want them to take the music to a completely different direction, because I feel like with Dead Space's identity, the music is boring as fuck. it's not that it's not that unique. It's just a pretty much a ripoff from Alien and other like sci-fi horror media. It
Well,
doesn't have its own identity.
I don't know about you, but I play the game without music, so I just keep the sound effects and the dialogue on.
Hmm. Like Dead Space.
I kind of like
Sorry.
the music though.
I feel like one thing that the music really focuses on, like Dead Space 2 has some pretty good tracks. The end credits, us Dead Space heads, that's a classic, a hood classic. But besides that, there's also that one violin track that's really good. Like if you listen to the soundtrack separately, Dead Space 2 soundtrack, it's actually pretty good. But the problem is, it when you play the game, it doesn't feel that impactful. It's the most notable thing about the soundtrack in Dead Space overall is that it's loud, and that's intent. It's more used for the scare factor, if anything. I don't
Uh,
think they really used the music as to build like the scenery or anything like that. I feel like the remake did that better, but there's not really a like, for example, a unitology theme there or something like that. But the
the
remake
thing
did that
is,
with Hunter.
the thing is, with each Dead Space game except from Dead Space 3, it always has like a theme to it essentially. Like with Dead Space 1, like it was just all about like building that atmosphere and all that stuff. And having it like, what do you call it? You have like a necromorph theme sort of thing where they like come after you. But like in the remake, it kind of plays into more of a Dead Space 2's theme, where it's like more so centered around how Isaac's doing, how Isaac's feeling, sort of thing. You
Hmm.
know, like sure enough, you have some moments where you hear like more of a da dun da dun da dun sort of thing, like where you're encountering a necromorph.
Hmm.
But when it's more ambient and when the cutscenes are playing, it's more or less just more centered around Isaac, essentially, how he's doing in the story. And, you
Yeah,
can hear it like where he's like, he just sent Ellie away and you hear like the violin music going,
yeah.
like, like he's like, fuck, I could have escaped. I could have got out of it, but
The
I
violin
didn't.
work is
Whereas,
really good in that soundtrack.
and what do you call it? In the remake, I think it is even better because it kind of plays on Isaac's sort of like, what do you call it? How he's repressed the memory of Nicole killing herself.
Hmm.
And what do you call it? Having that sense of like he kind of knows it in the back of his head, but he can't quite reach that memory. Like it's blocked. And having that sort of mystery surrounding this like ship, the outbreak, and what's happened to Nicole.
Hmm.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels more mysterious, essentially, for Dead Space remake
Yeah,
with its main theme.
now that you brought up the thing with Nicole, we could also like take in consideration that also Isaac's parents died recently, so it could have even affected more the fact that
Mm,
he couldn't accept that Nicole was dead, especially after the recent events.
yeah.
So that could be like a crucial play to why he agreed to volunteer to the mission, even though he knew the truth.
Mm, yeah. Anyway, Helios.
Yes.
Um, you can cut this out of the podcast if you want. Like, just gonna say, are we gonna take a break soon, or
I mean,
I
we can
mean, I want to
finish.
go want to grab a coffee
I
and
mean,
have another smoke.
if you
Fair
want,
enough.
well, in the meantime, we could continue while you're preparing the coffee because we could like retouch some aspects that we talked before.
I was just gonna say maybe have a 5 minute break and that's it.
Hmm.
Well,
And
I'm
also,
fine with anything.
I mean, we can retouch some
getting a bit
aspects before.
restless.
Yeah,
Hmm?
I mean,
Sorry.
we could retouch some aspects while you're doing your coffee, like not continue with adding new stuff.
Okay, what's up to you?
Hmm.
If you guys want to continue without me, that's fine.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few points I do wanna probably add, like in an
Okay.
extended conversation, probably storytelling more so.
Or we could
Oh,
go
you
a
know what
bit off our topic while British
you,
returns.
Hmm.
you know what you could do for the segment, Helios? You could have it like where a necromorph spawns in the area and like I have to go and deal with it.
Yeah. You can go to the medical deck, deal with the
Yeah.
necromorphs, then grab,
Hmm.
I don't know,
You know,
various parts.
oh man, I can imagine like what do you call it? You have a cutaway, and it's like Like me and then they come over and just having a cigarette together, having a conversation.
I could make that. I know how. So that could
That
work.
would be sick.
All
Yeah,
right.
I'd say that would be.
I'm
Right, I'll
just
be
gonna
back.
vent you. Get your drink.
All right. Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
Yeah.
What
Man.
could be an interesting thing? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, I'm a bit drunk, but it is what it is.
I'm completely sober right now. But one thing I feel like what could be a good thing to talk about right now for the Dead Space 2 thing that could be kind of niche.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Um,
The topics that we touched so far are quite interesting, especially the whole Tormentor, like
yeah.
rework. Like,
Hmm.
man, just the ideas that you and British brought up, like it came into my mind
Hmm.
and projected like the situation like it was, I don't know, like a fresh memory. And
Yeah,
that,
like vivid.
yeah,
Hmm. But one thing I really want them to work on, and I mean they really did a pretty good job in the Dead Space remake, but is the storytelling. I
hmm,
feel like they should change it up a little bit because of the themes that Dead Space 2 attempts to tackle. Those being, accepting and moving on, which is which is in itself not the most unique thing to approach, but considering the fact you're talking about a dead girlfriend, you have potential to do something, special. And I feel like the Dead Space 2 absolutely does not hit the mark.
yeah. But
And
now they could using the lore and the events that happen in the remake because it makes more sense. Just like I
Mhm,
mentioned before, that with the whole thing, Nicole being so aggressive towards Isaac, with
mhm,
basically judging him of causing her death.
yeah,
Like with this PS One, with the 2008 version and the 2011, it does like it wouldn't make sense. Like it wouldn't connect. But now with the
mhm.
remake, it does make sense. Why?
It makes sense, yeah. And I feel like they should add more to it to add some subtlety and everything like that. I feel like what they should do with the that part of the storyline is add more conflict to Isaac internally, because we just see essentially a what Nicole blabbering, and then Isaac would just be like, "Shut up," and that's pretty much it until like Isaac says, you are my everything, I can't live without you," and that was him accepting it. I feel like they could do a lot more psychologically as to see the human mind. I mean, Isaac is a very intelligent person,
Hmm.
but I feel like we should see that side of him. Maybe try to tackle this conflict. Like literally, his dead girlfriend is talking to him and ruining him.
I mean, in a way
And
the marker, but also the marker needs to find like a way to convince its victim
mhm,
to cooperate. Because in the Dead
yeah,
Space 2, we see that the marker tries with the hostile approach, but then later on tries to be more reasonable and to a certain point gaining back the trust. So say till
gaslighting.
yeah, till the last moment with the betrayal. But here they could work a bit more, just like I mentioned earlier with the torment with the final approach, like the final uh, encounter with the tormentor, where the marker or the Nicole marker would be like a huge help during the combat, like
Hmm.
guiding Isaac on how to damage it, on how to on how to defeat it, basically giving
Yeah.
the directions and the necessary directions to do so to achieve it. And because we know that Isaac is capable to adapt very fast
Hmm.
and find quick solutions, just like we've seen at the beginning of Dead Space remake with the crashing situation, that he was like the one with initiative and with the answers.
Yeah. Like one thing that's always like memed and talked about is the fact that, in the community is that Isaac is like the priest of shit, And it's clear, it's obvious. You look at him, but it's always noted towards. You just see what he's going through. Like, yeah, God, he must be so fucking depressed, right? Good dude, I cannot catch a break. But I feel like we should see that side of him. Like, just imagine, like he meets Ellie and everything, and he's still having the cold, and he for a second, legitimately has like a moment, like he might actually break down. Like I feel like we should totally get a more of an eternal struggle, something that makes him feel a lot more human than him just walking around saying "shut up, shut up, shut up," and then finally talking to Nicole. I feel like it would just be so much more effective. And of course, it's very hard to pull off something that something that deep and honestly pretty risky with such a dark topic like that. But considering the fact they already have the foundation, and they just need to be a bit more careful and know what they're writing, I feel like they could have a very good story on their hands if they know what to change and what to add.
But the thing is that I don't want them to take the same safe route like they did with the remake.
Oh, me
That's the
too.
thing.
I absolutely do not want that.
I want them to improve. I want them to risk.
Take risks, yeah.
Yeah, if it
Like,
works,
yeah.
it works. If it doesn't. Well, at least you try, but you didn't went with the safe route, because this will be like my. If they do this the safe route, it's going to be like a huge critic point for me
Yeah.
towards them.
Like I mean, the one big beneficial factor with Motive is that they had the Dead Space Council. They are very open to talking to their community.
So now that I
So-
mentioned that, truth to be told, when it comes to the council, I don't know who are who, but it's not like there are names that I remember. You know, like I would say there are more better options than those members.
I don't even know who was on the council, to
but
be honest.
who I am to judge.
To be honest, for the longest time, I thought Body Counter was on the list of these council members.
Nah.
That's surprising to me. That
I would say, and truthfully speaking, if they are going to make another council, I mean, British needs to be one, because when it comes to lore, there isn't any channels that did like a in-depth research and videos about the lore. I mean, yeah, there are some YouTubers that covers like lore in general, but not to a niche.
but not Dead Space focused.
Exactly, like analyzing everything. Because right now, what is missing in the Dead Space lore is the unknown survivors. That, yeah, it couldn't have like that much of a connection with the games, but it's piece of media that was available back in the days, and I know, like I remember that some videos or information or screenshots of the unknown survivors were present in the Age 7 community, which was like the old, like the Golden Age community, which was a website that the members will participate and interact with each other, but they shut down the server. Well, they shut down the domain hosting, so to say, when Dead Space, when Visceral Games got disbanded, so to say, or before. I did try to get in touch with one modder that made some exclusive mods for them, which is Snoopy Dog. But the last time that I interacted with him was in 2020 during the COVID situation, and truly be told, I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know. I feel it didn't happen the worst.
I hope he lives.
Yeah, because it will be like a huge shame, because he was one of the martyrs like in the Golden Age. The other one was Vile Death, in which luckily I do have his contact and he is in the server, so at least that. But I do want to try to revive, or at least get that glimpse. In a way, I kind of achieved it. But yeah, right now when it comes to communities, I mean, yeah, you have the community, the Dead Space community, you have the Space Necro posting, You have this speed run, but that one is like more specifically, and there's a developer as a member. So who knows?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Have you seen that goddamn stupid picture of like Peter Griffin saying perhaps?
Perhaps. Yeah.
Perhaps. I wonder how good the secret is right now for British. British.
British. Yeah, he'll be back. Don't worry. He'll announce his presence.
Yeah. Also, what other points have we not gone into? Let me check.
The expansions, possible
Oh,
expansions.
expansions. Yeah, we did actually mention like talking about alien stuff like that. Actually,
yeah, but there's like
we
a
could add
huge...
more to that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep this for the last part when British returns. But as for the others, I mean, you guys did point out some amazing stuff. Like some points that I would even imagine the same thing. Honestly, that's a good thing about when it comes to podcasts or doing discussions between different people, because everyone has like a different approach, a different vision of the game. Even if you're not a veteran or you play the games, but you played other titles, and
like people have their own different life experiences. Everyone plays different games, and so with people's unique experiences, they have there's a big potential to have new ideas brought into the table. Because one thing about games, than any different media, they're a huge collaborative effort. It's rarely only one centered vision.
That's true.
Like, I just finished Cyberpunk recently, and I sat through the whole credits. The amount of people that worked on that game is unfathomable. It's huge.
Yeah, and even after the Shiri release, they didn't give up on the project. And look how the game is nowadays.
Yeah,
like now
people praise it.
Yeah.
It's insane to think about.
Yeah, I finished the campaign and also the Phantom Liberty DLC.
Oh, Phantom Liberty is so good.
Yeah.
So good. I really want to play the game again, but exams.
Yeah.
But one thing I've been now I mentioned how I wanted to make a video on like what a Dead Space 2 remake needs to do, but I thought I should scrap it because thought I'll take my points here. But now this honestly has like kind of revigorated my interest on returning to that topic, because the Dead Space 2 could be legitimately one of the biggest games, like one of the greatest games ever, if done right. They nailed everything, like the combat and everything. They just need to iron out the other stuff, and then it would be fantastic.
Yeah, especially with the changes that they've done with the lore in the original, with the remake. So with the Dead Space 2 remake, it will connect perfectly.
Yeah, like honestly, the one idea I really want to bring like more forward to the community and just maybe have Motive see is the goddamn Ishimura like Hammond walking around. Like that sounds that's so creepy. Like there's no music sting, nothing, you just see it. You might miss it, but it adds more to it. Like the marker's constantly fucking you with your head, and now it's going very personal.
Yeah, making Ishimura like not so more. Yeah, making it more psychological instead of just having Nekomons coming at you.
Like take some notes from Silent Hill. Like sometimes like the devil's in the details. You don't always notice them.
Yeah. The environment storytelling.
And environmental storytelling was actually pretty good in Dead Space 2, but now with today's technology, it can be very much like added on to.
On some aspects, yes, but on others, I mean, I don't know. When it comes to animation aspect, I don't know. I'll say the remake was kind of a bit of disappointment because, for example, there are no idols animations. There's no personality on the Necromorphs when it comes to animations in comparison with the original. So I would say, like, either get more animation members or give more time.
I feel like it was just a directional thing because I feel like what they did was just off. Just wasn't the right decision.
With the
I
original
feel
or the remake?
the remake. I feel like they have the crew because the other animations were pretty solid. It was just that they kind of just they made the wrong decisions. I feel like most people even said that, like for example, the Act-Man said like, oh, the Necromorphs aren't that terrifying anymore because they're pretty chill with with the way they run at you.
I won't say terrifying, but they don't have that personality that makes them
Yeah,
what they are.
they come off more as generic zombies than what the necromorphs originally were, and I feel like going back to the environmental storytelling idea I had, I feel like with those small details they could add, it could really separate the idea that necromorphs are just zombies. Because to me, necromorphs have never been really zombies. They've been different enough, and I feel like with those extra details, you can make it really different.
I would say like
Oh
rabid
yeah,
animals.
Yeah,
yeah,
welcome back, British.
British.
British. Yes, the British runner. I'm back from the medical deck.
Good.
Got a new liver, new lungs.
No, they just gave me a prescription of coffee.
Fair
Bruh.
enough.
From who? From
Yeah,
Dr.
like
Mercer?
what were we talking about?
Good question.
Your mother.
Hates Dead Space.
You you were very much disappointed me, FR. You were very much disappointed me.
Eh.
I would love to
How,
see
how
like.
dare how dare you speak about my mother that way?
Here's a goddamn point to talk about. Should they remake Your Mom Hates Dead Space 2?
No.
I mean, they should convert your bomb into a tripod that attacks you on the church.
That's the thing I didn't like about Dead Space 2's marketing was they were marketing it towards kids. I was like, fuck off.
The only trailer that
Like,
worked out was the Rosie around the world.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, where like in the beginning they were thinking of making it more of a horror game, but for some reason they just pushed action more. And
I
like,
think it was EA's side.
I wouldn't say EA was
Da-da-da.
heavily jumping into action at that point in time. I think it was more Dead Space 3 when they were going more action. If Dead
Like
Space was considered to be a horror game, then Dead Space 2 should be considered to be a thriller.
it's like the classic comparison. And Dead Space is Alien, and Dead Space 2 is Aliens.
Well, like, what do you call it? Actually, I'll link you to a video I made ages ago.
Mhm.
Like, it was part of my what do you call it? Retrospective sort of thing.
Yeah.
Ooh, something from 65 million years ago, before the marker reached the Earth.
Yeah, it was basically it was on my retrospective. Like, Helios will remember it because like he actually told me to make a fake ranking in the video. And some people actually believe the fake ranking.
I don't know, I'm too drunk right now to remember.
Like, what do you call it? I said that Ignition was the best Dead Space ever, sort of thing. And people actually believed it.
I know someone that will agree to that, but still.
Like, what do you call it? Like, I said that Dead Space 2 was like the worst out of the trilogy. And like people were like, "Oh, I think that's a bit unfair." It's like you know, like they said, like they watched the entire video and like this. Oh, it was a bit unfair that you put Dead Space 2 at the very last spot. It's just like
Yeah,
you didn't watch the entire video, did you?
basically going to actually with the Danik face. Like British
Find the video.
facts. The fact that this pursuit is the best game done. Why? I have no clue. But it's better than Ignition, or Mobile, or your Puritarian Dead Space 1. I don't know. Fucking Danik.
Do you think Glenn Schofield should be brought onto Dead Space 2?
No.
But he's the master of horror.
No.
It was in the video. Which Dead Space is the best ranking of the main games? Comments.
I mean, the last one is Ignition. I mean, gameplay, meh. Story-wise,
Question:
answer done.
Will the all gender bathrooms return in the Dead Space 2 remake? That is the question for
Don't
today.
even get us started on that shit. Like,
Don't get us started.
I already had drama with another channel on that fucking thing. When someone called Revenant Remnant is a complete degenerate sort of thing. He is the Mama Max of fucking woke shit and all that stuff. Like,
Look,
he'll just twist everything you say. He'll like, it was a what do you call it? Like everything I would say, like sort of thing, he would just throw on some like what do you call it? Cartoon shit. Yeah, when I'm talking. So like, what do you call it? Very, very much a disrespectful YouTuber, but like, it would like just make fun of the fact that I'm British. It's just like, really, really, like, come on, like not in his commentary, but just through showing the clips of these sort of British stereotypes, like the guy from the Wild Thornberries, like,
I dropped my phone.
bruh.
that was perfect. That was perfectly timed. Like, he would just go, Angela. Like, like, have you ever seen the Wild Thornberries?
I unfortunately have not.
Good.
Okay. So, yeah, you showed like just stuff like that over me talking, and then he would just twist what I say. It's just like I remember one moment where he's like, and all of us are like lonely, pathetic, all this stuff, and list over a number of things that apparently people tell, like the people that are like woke and all, like not woke, anti woke. And then he was like, correct, and I was like, when did I ever say that? When was this brought into the argument? He just didn't like the fact that he just kept on making up straw man arguments, and I just kept on calling him out for it. It's just like, bro, you're just making straw mans up. No one's actually making these arguments up. But then he would bring up arguments like, it's not about having representation in Dead Space. It's about them getting special needs, not special needs, and then getting special treatment.
What?
It's just like,
Hold
what
on.
the fuck are you talking about?
Isn't that the same person that said that you were paid by EA?
No, that was another person that
Okay.
flocked over to his channel from my channel. That story is like, there was a comment on one of my videos talking about the misguided criticisms that were being made about Dead Space, about Nicole being ugly, like and someone said like, yeah, you're kind of being a bit racist and all this stuff. Yeah, I agreed with one aspect of the comment. Yeah. And then it said about him alluding him to being racist, and I hearted the comment. I hearted the comment, like, I literally was about to go to bed, sort of thing. So I just thought, fuck it, I'll heart that, yeah, because I agree with the first part of the comment, but not the second part of the comment. And this guy literally obsessed over that shit. Like, he just, like, saying, like, oh, you hearted that comment, you think I'm racist and all that. It's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was just like, it was like my interactions with Joey. It was just like, what the fuck is this person on about?
Don't start me with that.
And literally, like, I can find the video. Like, I'll tell you who it is, but like, literally, like, he went over to his channel and was like, I have no doubt in my mind that British is on EA's payroll. It's just like, fuck off. I wish I was on EA's payroll. This video is sponsored by Electronic Arts. I would fucking love that. Like, get paid $5,000 a month. Fuck yeah. Just to, say that EA is one of the best companies in the world. I would sell my soul to them instantly, but like, that's never gonna fucking happen.
Well, at least they're not the worst one nowadays, which is interesting. I commend that. But yeah, when it comes to this type of stuff, I find it funny that they get triggered by the whole bathroom thing. But I wonder how they will react when they'll find that audio log in chapter 11 regarding Temple being bisexual.
I feel like most people will probably miss that.
Exactly,
like
because
they
they didn't
don't
play the
listen
game.
to it. Like
Where do you find this audio log?
the
You know,
titular character Temple.
yeah, but he was at the audio log is located to the left side to the last part of the forest gun, which is on the right side is the Guardian in the cargo bay.
Okay. Okay.
I feel like when it comes to like just small things like those, or like maybe what a pride flag at someone's apartment or something like that. I'm personally not anti woke or anything like that, and to be honest, I find those things completely fine. You know, Dead Space is Dead Space. Just adding a few extra more details to the
Yeah.
game is just fine.
Hmm.
No one's gonna lose their
Yeah,
minds.
it's just mainly bad faith arguments.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's like
the funny thing is though, Revenant actually said like you operate out of bad faith. It's like fuck off. That's a projection if I've ever heard one. So like I should have said like says the guy that doesn't formulate his own opinion, just regurgitates everybody else's, because that's exactly what he does. Like I've seen some of his other videos where like what do you call it, like the Spider-Man game that came out a little while ago, like apparently that's woke because some missions you get to play as Mary Jane, and there are other missions where it shows like a transgender flag. I'm like, what the fuck does this even mean? Like, what is woke these days? What is considered woke? But like
mean,
personally, what I consider to be woke is like the message that no one. I have even asked people this, like, what is the message? Like, no one's been able to tell me this, and I had to find the shit out for myself. I actually had research about this, and it's like, what do you call that? It's like in the newer Doctor Who episodes, like where you have like Donna and her daughter Rose, like saying like how, oh, you're a man, so you would never understand these things. Like that's the message. It's just basically shitting on men for being men, and I understand that. That's completely valid. Like we don't need this shit in media. I mean, we've had women slapping men or women like what do you call it, sexually assaulting men on camera. In like there was a time where like say for instance the Doctor gets his ass grabbed by a older woman essentially, and that's considered comedy. Like we've had that shit before. That's kind of softcore shit there. But like just specifically saying that your opinion doesn't matter because you're a guy, yeah, I understand that. Like that shouldn't be a part of anything.
do that question to a necromorph. It will matter. You're just another brother, another system once you're dead.
doesn't matter what flag we fall under. We all are part of the Maka.
We will
I just
whole
saw
again.
I just saw a comment on my misleading criticism sequel video. British, the EarthGov Security Enforcement Guard is willing to start a black operation against these critics. Give us the order. And I just say, execute order eventuality 66. And he's like, understood, sir. Because eventuality is actually a operation in Dead Space. I think it's the Valor's operation. Eventuality something like.
Well, it didn't end up quite well.
But yeah, that whole thing was just like ridiculous, like honestly ridiculous. And I didn't even watch Revenant's second response to one of my videos. It's just like because of just how bad faith that guy really is. I did watch some of his other videos, the more recent ones, and you can tell that he's trying to. He's like, I know this guy's watching my videos, so I'm just gonna try and get him to antagonize me. Like saying shit like, all these people are just corporate slaves. If you don't agree with my opinion, you're a corporate slave. It's like, I'm not really sure that's how it goes, but okay. Anyway, like, let's go back to Dead Space.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we kind of stranded quite a lot from Dead Space.
Is this gonna stay in the video? I'm wondering.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't
know.
think so.
Yeah, probably. I don't
I
know.
don't
Should I
know.
make like a transition, just in case?
You can make a transition. You can
Yeah.
always add these as deleted scenes, though, couldn't you? So, like, if you
Oh,
want to do you can always do memberships. Like, you know, you have a membership for like stuff like the behind the scenes, maybe a deleted scene or two. You know,
I'm
you
just
never know.
thinking
You could
about
do that.
when it comes to the pacing of the video, having like a
We'll
sidetrack could be.
let Helios deal with that and editing.
yeah, I think I have a better idea. I mean, me and Alonso could just accompany to the tram station. We'll let you get inside the tram, and you'll be like talking to Nicole or the Prince of the Marker, and the Marker will just listen, just to get a taste of. See, this is what happens.
Nicole, Mama Max is a fucking horrible person. Listen to me.
And
Like,
we just plug the
thing
tram
is,
station.
Make us whole, honey. Please shut the fuck up.
the thing is, after going through that whole bloody matter with him, essentially, it felt like I was under the influence of the fucking marker at that point. Like, I'm dying over here trying to get this video done. Especially because, like, we're on the outskirts of the drama just fading away into nothing. And I'm like, oh, I need to get this video out quick.
Yeah. Well, let's see what's left of talking about this space. Two, let's just say possible expansions. Like, there's a huge possibility to expand the story with different characters. I mean, we have Basil, we have Gabe Weller, but we could also have like different survivors. Visiting some different areas at a different time stamp, so to say.
A Tideman DLC where it's a point and click adventure where you just call Isaac every now and then.
I will murder you. No, but I'll say like taking other survivors. Or
how's this for an Easter egg? You have Rick and Morty just show up.
Please no.
no.
Like, no, as in, like, you know, you see them, but you just see the shadows.
No,
That would be kind of funny.
I would turn
That would be
into
kind of
pickle.
funny as an Easter egg.
Imagine if I'm the pickle and talks, and you throw the pickle in a necromorph.
It's just a necromorph Rick.
Oh, can you imagine?
The marker is a Lovecraftian horror element. We need to leave Morty.
I need to find someone that can do a Rick impression so I can make a Rick and Morty timeline.
Morty.
Just break the fourth wall.
That can sound a bit of what was the name of that character?
Although if I made a Rick and Morty video and it went viral sort of thing, they would probably put that in season 8.
Is Rick and Morty still relevant? Is that still going?
Some British guys. He's been spying us, Morty. Yeah, I think it's still going. Like,
yeah, it's still going.
I don't know season because like season 7 they did track down the Nemesis and all that stuff, and
also the change of the voice actor for Rick.
And now we found out the guy was innocent.
Wait, he wasn't innocent?
He was, apparently. I think there was no evidence of him being a abuser. At least that's what I heard from a friend.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, he
so I don't care about Rick and Morty, so like I have not been on track about this news. So we're really sidetracked about like internet drama from that space.
Well, the only reason I brought Rick and Morty up anyway, I don't know if it was
Easter egg, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I have a post on my channel, 2 members only, and what do you call it? No one's voted yet, which is just typical of my members because they're very But I do want to make a members video soon because I don't want to seem like I'm trying to grift people. So, like, you know, not like another individual we know about, but like the universes I've listed essentially for people to vote are The Lord of the Rings as a timeline.
Oh,
These are all timeline videos, by the way. Like this is the reason why I'm making it like the timeline videos in TV and film essentially members only, so I can add in like clips and all that stuff into the background. So like if I get copyright claimed for it, they can have the money from the ad revenue, but that won't matter because like people will still be able to watch it, and I'll still get paid for it because like I'm getting members. So like, you know, I won't be losing anything basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So this is the reason why I'm making the TV and film timelines more of like members only, and keeping video games timelines like what do you call it available to everyone else, because essentially the video game ones are going to be probably more popular and you know all that stuff. But anyway, like I've got Lord of the Rings, Heroes, Rick and Morty, Game of Thrones,
ugh.
and Terminator.
Imagine starting with a
Which, to be
marker.
fair, I might make Terminator first because, like, I really want to make a timeline video on that because of how, you know, how the timeline just changes over the years and all that stuff.
Follow me if you want to leave.
Like say for instance, the what do you call it? The first timeline, post-apocalyptic world against the machines. They send back a machine. They send back Kyle Reese, and then it continues until it hits Terminator 3, then goes to Terminator Salvation, and it just shows the rippling effect through the timeline of sending things back in time, and how that's changed the what do you call it? That more synthwave version of the apocalyptic world against the machines has changed to more of a realistic view of it. Like, yeah, and then now it just constantly keeps going back and forth. It also plays into the whole thing, like, if you change a moment in history, you're not changing your own personal history, you've just created a new reality. Kind of like in Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball.
But, yeah, with the Cell Saga, where, what do you call it? Trunks goes back in time to warn people about the androids, but he actually goes to a different reality instead of going back in time. So his future is still the same, but this reality that he's warned people about is going to be a little bit different, essentially.
I don't know about you, but Dragon Age, oh my god, Dragon Age, no, Dragon Ball is consistent as fuck when it comes to timelines. It's random. It doesn't have like a linear
I think
timeline.
it's kind of the multiverse theory,
For me, it's
and which
boring.
brings me to what do you call it? The quote from Team 4-Star: "Multiverse theory is a bitch." Team 4-Star was brilliant back in the day.
Yeah,
All these squares make a circle. All these squares make a circle.
with the Helsing. I remember them from the Helsing. A bridge. Oh my god, that's a piece
That
of
was
art.
my childhood. I used to watch that as a kid for some reason.
My teen years were like, what do you call it? Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series, who
Ooh.
was made by Little Karibo, who did the voice for Frieza from Dragon Ball Z abridged.
Oh, that's nice.
You can actually tell it's him because, like, what do you call it? You watch the moments with Frieza in the abridged series, and then you see like what do you call it? Marek in Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series, and it's exactly the same voice. God, abridged series is so funny. I remember watching Devil May Cry, the abridged series, like the actual anime, not the game.
I've never even seen the original Hellsing. I've just seen the abridged series, and I remember some of the lines.
I feel like there was an overused line in every single abridged series, and it's like, my voice gives me super speed, my voice gives me super strength, my voice gives me this. It's like, oh, shut the fuck up, just stop it. Stop
Yeah.
it.
In my case, I've seen the free versions, the original, the revisited, and the abridged. But yeah, the bridge is just my goodness. But the one that's like official is the Ghost
What
Stories,
are you talking
the
about?
dub.
What are
Now
we talking about?
animes,
Which show? Which show?
Helsing.
Oh, Helsing. Okay.
Yeah,
I
because
was gonna
actually,
say it's like I was gonna say the Devil May Cry Abridged series intro is from Das Omen, and all I said, oh damn, that's such a good song. But yeah, go.
yeah, but there's one anime series that the dub is like the bridge, but is the official, which is the Ghost Stories, because the original didn't sell that much, and they just, yeah, you know what, you can do whatever you want, and oh boy, they did it. I think that dub has so many dark humor jokes that nowadays it would just get you cancelled.
Yeah.
But it's so good because it's not that it's a bridge, it's the official dub, which is even better.
Oh wait a minute. Wait a minute. I just have to. I have to search this up.
Yeah, Ghost Stories dub
No, no, not
English.
that. Not
Oh,
that. Not that.
god damn it.
Dead Space. Dead Space Downfall abridged.
Ah, the trailer. I know which one you're referring.
Yeah. There's a. What do you call it?
Yeah,
There's
it's
the
like,
intro.
yeah, that one.
All we want to do is eat your brains. It's such a brilliant song. Where is it? Where is it?
Well,
Um,
I mean,
I don't
well,
know if it's even up anymore.
I know which video you're referring, but I need to search it for it as well. First there, no, not
Yeah, it's
this one.
very old, so I don't know if I'm gonna see it. I mean, there's a trailer for the Bridge series, but
Yeah, but that one is like too recent. I know which one you're referring. Alright, not gonna lie. We could wrap this up. Basically.
Yeah, it just clocked in 3 a.m. for me, so
Yeah, I mean, we right now we just like make it even longer. That it should be. I mean, I did warn you that it's going to be a long session.
I know,
You know, told you.
I know ahead.
It always
I know
happens.
the consequences.
It is what it is. It's what the marker signal does.
I have dementia. Who are you again?
I don't know. I'm not your mom. I'm your dad, and your dad loves Dead Space.
My
who's your
dad's
mama?
Romanian?
I'm your mama.
Ugh.
Wait, that's creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy.
That's creepy. That's from I think it's from Super Mario 64 versus between Josh Jepson and Attack of Toucans.
Oh
Attack of
boy.
Toucans just goes like, yeah, who's your mama? I'm your mama. And Josh is like, wait a minute, whoa, that's creepy.
All right, I think we
Dude,
should.
that's really creepy. Don't ever say that again.
All right, I think this is the right time to wrap it up. I don't
Yeah,
want
We're
to hear.
losing it.
Yeah, we're losing it. I mean, I'm drunk. You're tired. British is having his time because he already had the nap early on. So
I'm
yeah,
so tired, so.
no.
How?
How? What do you mean, how? I had 5 hours sleep. Like, I woke up at 9 o'clock at night the previous night. And I stayed up until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, editing my video and did a bit of shopping and all that stuff. Then I went to sleep for 5 hours.
Rookie
So how,
numbers.
how am I still... How am I still tired, you ask? I haven't had my full cycle yet. Somebody wanted to drag me out of bed to talk about Dead Space 2.
Are you
Oh, well.
complaining?
Yeah, and also that we started a bit late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it always happens. It's not something new, truth be told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll be all.
It's all good. I'm gonna probably get on with more editing this Max video, and yeah.
Yeah,
Like the Max video is so fucked as well that I have to put disclaimers on the time cards of this video could be triggering to people of SA and this and this. And in some cases, I'm going to have to say this segment could be triggering to CSA survivors. Like, because Max doesn't actually do that in any of his videos, and his videos are very harmful to those type of people. I mean, Simpleton and other people have told me that, like, and they happen to be CSA survivors. So I'm having to put disclaimers down to say, yeah, this video contains flashing. This segment contains flashing lights and that because of the epilepsy. There is a moment in the video though, like where I do say, like, no, I put a clip of Negan from The Walking Dead saying, "Who are you?" and then adding in Max's old intro saying, "I'm Max," and then it does his intro sort of thing, like, which is very, very epileptic shit.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's better off to wrap it up. Like, I'm already starting to get tired. Like, I need to go to sleep. But, well,
just don't let the necro bugs bite. You know,
little lurker, let me in. I want to sleep with you tonight. But no, that won't happen. But
oh, mate, that reminds me of Your Mama, the channel Your Mama, like where he did the Five Nights at Freddy's thing. He's like, "Freddy, come out to play." Then he starts kicking down the toilet doors, and he's like, "Peekaboo, I see you," and he's like, "There you are. Time to clean up your act." Like. It's one of the comedic effect is that, like, what do you call it? He was the one who was scared in the first few nights, and then at the end of the week, he's the one who's turned the tables around on the animatronics. So now Freddy's cowering in a toilet booth, essentially, in a cubicle, and the guy's kicking down the doors. It is quite funny though. Like, even like, I think he uses like a grappling hook to hit Bonnie and say like, "Get over here," and it's fine.
anyways,
We should probably call this end. Is there
stay.
Is there going to be any post-credit scene?
I doubt it. But
You never leave. You'll never leave us. You can't leave. You can never leave us.
I can move you into the void.
I'm sorry,
space.
but you need to stay. I've been through the trenches of the Life Sucks series, okay? Like, I've been through so much right now. You're not leaving, okay? I need companionship to get me through the rest of this. The rest of this goddamn trip.
Stop prolonging the end, the inevitable. You know this will end.
Sorry.
This will end.
No. I need companionship to help me get through this fever dream of Mama Max, okay?
Don't force my hand. You know I have the power here.
The British
You have
runner.
no power here.
The British
thought that
runner.
you were
He's
on
the
board the
British
Ishimura.
psychologist.
You thought that you were on the Ishimura this whole time?
You have no power.
You were actually
here,
in my
British.
realm of the eternal darkness. You were in my world.
All right, let's see. Where's that option? Let me check on Discord. Where is it?
There is no Discord.
All right. Joke aside. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that was all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this prolonged ending thanks to British or British So I'll leave you, British. So I'll leave you to your editing.
The TheBrtishRunner.
Yeah, the British runner going with a momo thing. I don't know. I'm drunk. I'm
And
sleepy.
eventually we'll be doing it. And eventually we'll do a Dead Space crossover versus.
Mama Max. I sure hope not.
No. Well, actually, no. To be honest with you, I was actually thinking about this. What if you tried to strike down my video? I'd probably say like, do you know what the versus is, Max?
We need to hit the credits. Roll the credits.
I'm rolling them.
No.
Fuck it.
No.
Hold on.
I was gonna say like.
I'm gonna do the
I was gonna say
thing.
like.
All right, vote for real. We need to vote out.
I was gonna say like.
Voting.
I was literally just gonna
Mods,
say like.
push the skull.
Like. I'd say to Max like, how about we settle this honorably with a duel, like from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I'll just use a pistol or the rifle. I'll just
To be honest
empty
with
the
you,
whole magazine.
To be honest with you, after watching all of his videos, I just want to punch the guy. Like the obnoxious sort of shit he's done. It is.
What?
I want.
What would you want?
He makes me.
Watch?
He makes me want to become a murderer.
Watch The Sopranos. Watch some good TV.
Yeah, or what was the name of that? Or Peaky Blinders, or what was it? Let me see.
Breaking Bad, The Wire.
Is Peaky Blinders what Installation 00 put in his video about the Halo TV show? Like about how the criticism is unfucking justified. I think that
I've
is
not seen Peaky
Peaky
Blinders yet, so.
Or Boardwalk Empire. That's also like a good.
Or the Halo TV show.
But all right, we ended this podcast.
Do you think Paramount Plus would do justice to a Dead Space show?
Hell no.
No.
I just imagine it.
Speaking-
Have you seen that clip of the dog
Speaking-
pressing the button?
speaking
Hell
of the
no! Hell no! Just me. No.
Speaking of a Dead Space TV show, yeah, I actually have been in the works of trying to create a reimagining of the Dead Space universe, but from Chuck Beaver's sort of vision of it. Instead of, because like in an interview, well, not an interview, but in his talks with one of his friends on YouTube, essentially, yeah, when they were doing the playthrough. Like, he clears up a big plot hole in the actual entire universe, why there's such a difference between the lore of Dead Space Martyr, and the Dead Space comics, and the rest of the universe. So, what do you call it? Chuck Beaver's sort of vision was he wanted to have a bit more of a wondrous sort of, look upon the Dead Space universe. Like, there was something out there, but there was something out there among the dead planets, but it was kind of outreach. And these are the aliens that created the human race. And these aliens created the human race as like a saving grace, essentially, against the necromorphs and the markers. So, like, what do you call it? Certain things like a mental genetic defense, essentially, like a genetic mental defense that they implanted into the human race to protect them against the harmful array of influence that the marker has, essentially. And that's why you get hallucinations as a byproduct of, the defense mechanism. What do you call it? In my version, I'm going to try and I don't want to completely reimagine Dead Space Martyr. I think it's pretty good as it is. I just want to expand upon it in a audiobook sort of series where it's completely voice acted. It's got some narration, but the narration isn't like overpowering the voice acting or anything like that. It's just to give context. And yeah, I want to create a show like that. So yeah, hopefully when someone like Arcgains gets back to me, essentially, with if they're still creating a script or something like that, I haven't heard from him in about a couple of months. So yeah,
I mean, I'll say for possibility for the Space series or movie, I'll say Blumhouse Studios. Just like they did with Five Nights at Freddy's. But yeah, I think the most of the job will be CGI.
As I've said to you, Helios, after Martyr, I want to create another Dead Space story, completely new. what do you call it? Where it just focuses on the rise of unitology, where it's like, well, not really the rise, but like this reporter goes to the first church essentially to try and exhume all of the secrets and all that stuff to expose them for the fraudsters they really are. And eventually, throughout the whole story, like,
I'm just gonna
what do you call
interrupt
it?
real quick. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna
She
go
is
to sleep
alluded.
now.
Yeah, I mean we're gonna end in a bit, so still.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, what do you call it? She is like, they refer to her as the shepherd sort of thing because she's going to bring more unitologists in with her words,
Good night,
her
y'all.
gospel, essentially. See you later, man.
All right, take care.
This was fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, she's gonna bring more people into the church, and this is how the church actually really just expands really rapidly, and she sells the what do you call it, the martyr of Michael Altman. But like the way I want to go about it is something more psychologically fucked, essentially, how they indoctrinate her. And it's more of like a, what do you call it? It's more of like going into an area, essentially. I'd say the first church has like accommodations for its followers, and they close down the church and they close the gates, so there's no escape, essentially. It's a cult. So, like, and then like after her fight to escape, she just like, what do you call it, ends up getting indoctrinated into the order, and yeah,
The rest is history.
I'd say that's, yeah, I'd just say adding more world building, essentially, adding more like of this that we didn't really see in Dead Space at all. So we never saw the unitologists indoctrinating their followers or anything like that. It was always just like rumors and all that stuff.
Or the process that they
So-
do that is so effective, just like it happened with Octavia Clark, that even after
Yeah.
Nicole's methods, she still returns.
Yeah. I might have, if I want to do Catalyst, I might have it where like we swap in between the perspective of the Aegis 7 research station and the what is it, the Asperia research station, so you
Yeah.
get to see both at play essentially.
I would say what is missing is Kremar, which is a third site.
Yeah, I would probably implement that into the story at some point. But I would have it like where instead of Isaac going to Tal Volantis, I would have him go to Crema to, like, Ellie tells him to go to Crema and gets him to what do you call it, go and investigate what actually happened there. And you just find remnants of the sovereign colonies, but eventually he finds someone that's he finds a rig signature that seems a bit familiar to him. So he investigates, and it turns out it was actually his dad. But
Yeah.
you know, that'd be interesting to see that his dad was, like, you know, he crash landed on the planet with the what do you call it, the merchant marines, and they fought to survive in this brutal world essentially full of necromorphs.
Yeah, that could work with Visceral Games story, but with
Yeah.
motive, not that much. I mean, it's still a
Yeah,
good
that's why
concept.
that's why I'm saying it's a reimagining.
Yeah, but
It's not a product of EA motive. So
if you plan to do that, so you need to like make it sure, because there'll be always some people that will say, but actually his father died, so you just need to indicate that this is from the Visceral Games perspective,
yeah. So
not motive.
like
Just like I said
That's-
in the past, that there are two universes, the motive one
Yeah.
and the Visceral Games.
But yeah, I'm gonna have it like with trailers and all that stuff, and hopefully at some point, I don't know when, but like I want to make this happen. I want to have like kind of like what I did with Convergence of the Cybermen. I have like a trailer for it and all that stuff, so it gives people to latch onto it, and also it's pretty awesome. It's an awesome idea, so just gotta find the time to do it.
Well, and when it comes to location, it could be something like in Dead Space 3, mostly because of the resources and the way that they will construct the facilities.
Well, with Dead Space 3 with the Sovereign Colonies, I might actually just have it be a play on Starship Troopers, to be fair. Like with Starship Troopers 2, where like it's like a lot more like a horror film, and it's like a lot more like gritty essentially, and it's not so much of a glorified piece of media that the first one was. So yeah, I might have it be a play on that. I mean, you can see in the conversions of Cybermen, it's basically a mirrored version of the opening to Starship Troopers 2, where they're on top of the platform, holding out against the Starship Troopers 2, where the Marines are on top of a hill, essentially. So it's pretty much they're enough the same sort of concept, essentially.
Yeah, there's a huge possibilities to make side stories, spin-offs. But yeah, but when it comes to official, it all depends on the
might even
motive.
have it where like I might even have it like where the Shambler essentially infiltrates the base, and nobody knows it's a Shambler. No one knows it's a Necromorph, and it basically tries to get to the High Command to assassinate them essentially and kill them. So, because like the thing is with Atlantis, you got all these markers all scattered around, and you got a moon orbiting the what do you call it, the planet. So therefore, I think the Necromorphs with more markers around, especially with a moon right next to it, would be very intelligent, like deadly intelligent, like even more so.
And that
Because
could
like
work
the signal is more intensified. Eventually, I think at the what do you call it? The last season, I might have it where humans find the alien creators that they have been searching for all this time, and instead of but well, with the unitologists, I'd say that unitologists awaken them, not the moon. You know, I would say the moon maybe someone that's not a unitologist would actually like do that instead. Like, you know, like they accidentally awaken the moon while trying to configure the machine, and then it becomes a race against time to actually finish the machine and stop the moon. So maybe that could be that. Or maybe they just, like, the team that was sent to Atlantis ends up, like, what do you call it?
slaughtered.
Well, just awakening the moon, letting it converge, and then, you know, everybody dies. Like how it would be in a Dead Space. A very bleak ending sort of thing.
Right from the
And then,
start.
and then in another season sort of thing, I really want to do a similar thing to what the Children of Earth Torchwood did. Whereas, like, what do you call it? All the children basically start humming a mantra, essentially. Like, what do you call it? We are coming. We are coming. Like, something like that, anyway. Like, all the children say it, all at the same time, all synchronized together, essentially, across the planet. Except from, I would say, unitology. Unitologists would be like saying the mantra of, we are coming. We are coming. We are hungry. And we are coming. Like that being, like, that is synchronizing with the marker to the moons, essentially. So, something like that, which could be very haunting.
No, it could be. Not gonna
Yeah.
lie. But oh
Yeah,
well.
So,
Yeah, I think that'll be all. Like, now it's time to wrap it up all together. I
Yeah.
I don't know how long this is going to be,
oh,
but
we're still recording, aren't we?
yeah, I'm still recording. Probably this is going to be like 3 hours and 30 minutes. Probably. Who
Yeah,
knows?
probably.
But yeah, this was a long one. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be like the previous episode as long. I mean, it's going to be a lot of editing. Just
What was the previous episode?
It was about Dead Space Remake and the Callisto Protocol.
Is it as long as my video I have in the works?
Now I would say
Is it gonna?
I would say
By the way, my Diablo timeline, nearly 4 hours long, like just under. However, the what do you call it? The one I've got in the works is looking to be even longer.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like nearly 5 hours long.
That will be another time to talk. Like, we need to wrap this up. Like, I'm already tired.
I know. And
But
wrap
yeah.
it up.
Yep, time to wrap it up. So, that was it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this 7th episode of the Planet Cracker podcast. I don't know how long it's going to be, but all I know is that the editing will be quite entertaining. But yeah, just do the honors to end. You have more energy, Debbie.
Well, guys, thank you all very much for listening to this podcast of the Planet Cracker podcast. Is that it? Yeah, the Planet Cracker podcast. It's been a while since I've been on this show, to be honest with you, so I'm a bit like rusty on the old. Yeah, I'm a bit rusty with the old name of the show, so you have to forgive me on that one. But yeah, thank you all very much for listening to episode 7 of the Planet Cracker podcast. If you guys did enjoy, we'd all appreciate it if you hit a like on the video. Give us your thoughts about the topics that were discussed in this video. We look forward to hearing from you. It'd be very much to have a great way to have a discussion in the comment section. And if you guys are new here and you like this type of stuff, yeah, Helios makes a lot of these podcast episodes, commentaries, and videos on like the Dead Space remake, Call of Duty, and all this other stuff that you guys will probably really like as well. And you guys should definitely subscribe to Helios Max. And if you guys want to have a bit, and if you guys want to see a bit of lore and all that stuff, a little bit of documenting and all that stuff with the lore, the story, and all that stuff, then come over to my channel, and we'll get you sorted with your lore prescription, if you will.
And we'll also link for real or what was his YouTube channel? Oronoto channel. Yeah, Oronoto channel in the video description, so you can see his other videos regarding movies, videos, and as well the latest this video that he did for the first anniversary of Dead Space Remake. But yeah, discussion of Call of Duty. I do challenges. Not discussions. But oh well, it is what it is.
I'd say you do Call of Duty stuff.
Yeah. Well, challenges to be fair. I mean, it depends on.
He does everything zombie related. Let's just put it that way. Helios is a zombie fanatic.
I have no life.
I mean, you did Callisto Protocol, Horde mode, you did Dead Space, and now you're doing zombies.
Don't even remind me of Callisto Protocol. That thing is going to be infamous.
I thought you liked Callisto Protocol though, Helios. I thought you said it was good.
Dude, I just no, I prefer to get the platoon and shove it right.
Specifically, when I was having such a bad time on my first experience, you're like, no, the game's not even that hard. Fuck off, Helios. Fuck off.
Oh well.
Yeah, the game was brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal, not the difficulty, not so much. Brutal on my sanity. That's what it was brutal on. And not because it was a horror game. No. Because the game was fucking broken on release.
If you have any complaints,
Combat.
If you have any complaints,
on top of that,
contact studios.
One thing that did piss me off quite a bit to a certain extent was you're climbing up a ladder and boom, you get jump scared by a fucking whatever it is, a leaping head thing, like from the tentacle pod.
I know which one you're referring.
And these things deal you damage as well. And you have no way to counteract it. Coming out of a fucking ladder or just walking through a doorway, boom, it just grabs you. It's just like, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching, and we'll hope to see you all in the next part of the Planet Cracker podcast or whatever Helios is going to make.
Yeah, but that one might take some time. So, at least, well, let's see what 2024 has in store for us. So, that'll be all.
Oh yes. If it's anything like how the drama sort of thing has been unfolding, And it's going to be very eventful.
And ooh, this Alt F9 looks pretty promising. If you know what I mean. Alright, that'll be all. Take care everyone, and we will be seeing you all in the next episode. So see you then, stay safe, take care, have a good one. And I'll link in the video description the channels for TheBrtishRunner and Oronoto. So yeah, take care.